Hey everybody, we're going to get started. All right, good evening, everybody. This is a regular meeting of the Berners Township Board of Education. We've already met in executive session, and the board has saluted the flag at that time. Ms. Roll, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Salmon?
Here.
Ms. White?
Here.
Ms. Light?
Here.
Ms. Hero? Ms. McCune?
Here.
Mr. Molinari?
Here.
Mr. Amin?
Here.
Ms. Chipak?
Here.
And Mr. Rauschio?
Here. Just read out a portion of the statement of public notice. Notice of the time and place of this meeting was provided, and copies of that resolution were forwarded to the official newspapers as designated by the Board of Education and the Township Clerk. And a copy of the notice was posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education offices in accordance with PL 1975, Chapter 231A. The rest of it is posted online and in your handouts, and I will just say there will be two opportunities for public comment. The first one will be public comment on agenda items. The second will be public comment on whatever is on your mind. Just come up, sign in, state your name and address. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and please keep them respectful. And with that, we will go to our student representative, Petra Deffenbaugh.
Hello, everyone. For the final time, I am Petra Deffenbaugh, the student government president and the student representative for the board. I would first like to say congratulations to all our district retirees and also to our graduating seniors. Before I kind of make my final remarks and issue thanks to a lot of very important people, I'd like to provide some sort of recap for the final 2 weeks of school. So the Tea Time group hosted the Ridge Brew, which seemingly went very well. Unfortunately, I could not make it, as is the day after the senior prom, but I've heard very good things. We had a phenomenal orchestra concert, a tantalizing band show, and a spectacular choral concert. Our art show was displayed in the old gym, and it was actually breathtaking. On June 1st, we participated in Ridge Gives Back, where I volunteered at Franklin Food Bank, which was really awesome, and they were super inviting, and it was a great time. The Career Experience Club has been hosting a variety of guest speakers. The forensics team is currently in Phoenix, Arizona for one national tournament, and they were at a different nationals in Louisville, Kentucky about 2 weeks ago. 6 people were finalists at the Louisville competition. AP research students presented their excellent presentations during lunch last week. Our trip to the elementary schools was very successful. Our 11-year-old politicians were very animated, and we really enjoyed going to recess for the last time ever. Despite the strange weather, Ridge seniors had a wonderful time at the prom last Wednesday. Tonight is senior movie night, and on Thursday, we will have our senior celebration. Students, especially seniors, should make an effort to return their textbooks, Chromebooks, lunch money, and all other debts to Ridge High School as soon as possible. As for the very final sports games, the track and field team have groups this weekend, so good luck to them. The boys lacrosse team made it to the sectional championship, but sadly lost to Chatham. And I believe all the other teams had finalized by the meetings we had last, but if I am mistaken, I want to say how proud the Ridge community has been of our athletic accomplishments over the last year. Ridge students have filled this year with clubs, sports, activities, and fun. Myself and the rest of the student government have been so grateful to serve them over this past year, as they have accomplished so many incredible things. Additionally, I want to commend the student government officers of this school year on their fantastic work in community events, fundraising, and student advocacy. We've been able to accomplish so much in just over 9 months, and I am so grateful to have presided over such a group of passionate, intelligent, and hardworking students who genuinely want to make the school a better place. In the audience tonight, I have Dan Speeney, our incoming student government vice president. Unfortunately, Natalie Ramirez, our incoming student government president, couldn't be here today as she is crushing her forensics tournament in Arizona. Their arrangement will likely function the same way that Kyle and I's did throughout the past year, as they are both very busy and hardworking people with a lot of extracurricular involvement. Dan, Natalie, Sophia Liu, who will be the secretary, and Ben Yukelchik, who will be the treasurer, are 4 individuals who will certainly uphold the values and determination the student government wishes to share with the student body. They are all very involved with the student body, and I genuinely believe they will be excellent leaders for our school. I want to issue thanks to Kyle Swan, the student government vice president, for filling in for me for so many times and being an awesome help in all the crazy matters which have been placed in our hands this year. Additionally, Jackie and AJ, you guys were awesome, and I was so grateful to have both of them on our team. Thank you to our administrators, particularly Dr. Lazovic, for listening to us and supporting us throughout the year. As well, thank you to my guidance counselor, Ms. Cahill, who has had to listen to me unwind following a lot of these very tense meetings, and I appreciate her a lot. Mostly, I want to thank Ms. Cascarelli and Ms. Mitchell, who are our student government advisors, for their unending guidance and support. I don't know what I would have done or even what the student body would have done without their skills both in and outside of the classroom. Before I end my portion of the meeting, I want to discuss something that every student government member is forced to contemplate before even being put up for election: our legacy. We ask every applicant, what do you want your legacy to be on Ridge High School, in their officer applications? Our town and our school have many legacies. We have put distance between our bad reputation, or at least tried to, following the incident with the community mosque. We have distanced from our reputation after being labeled a suicide school for many years. We have even distanced our reputation for having really gross bathrooms. I am happy to report that that situation has somewhat improved. However, each person here should consider, what do we want our legacy to be? What do you want people to remember about your term on the board? What do you want people to remember when you leave the classroom? What do you want your kids, neighbors, and families to remember when they leave this town? These questions are important. Every member of a community plays an important role in shaping the future and the past of our community. I am confident that I will leave Ridge High School having made it a better place. I have held up my end of the bargain, and I believe that Ridge students are trying their best to hold up their end. But inadvertently, school helps people to become more informed, curious, and have a respect for their community. Our district has many issues. Students still experience discrimination, mental illness, sexual assault, and many other things within the many classrooms that make up our district. It is the responsibility of not only the individual parents to stop this before it starts, but the responsibility of all the people in this room and in our community to help guide students towards a path of respect, kindness, and dignity. So again, I will ask, what do you want your legacy to be? I hope everyone takes their time in their own personal life to consider many perspectives, reach within themselves, and reflect on everything that has happened within this year. Somehow, maybe, you can redirect our district from what appears to be a stain on our legacy and instead continue to make the meaningful changes for students' lives. Finally, I want to thank all of you here today. Thank you to our community for continually coming to these meetings and advocating for yourself and your students. Thank you for the teachers for their commitment to us as students inside and outside their classrooms. Thank you to the Board of Education members for generally treating me with kindness and respect. Thank you to Mr. Markarian and Ms. Fox for their contributions to this district and their support of me throughout the year. Thank you to Ms. Hendricks for all of your emails and the unspoken work that you do to help this district. Thank you to the PAC staff and Mr. Berry for doing all the sounds, lights, and video for these meetings. I will be going off to school at the University of Colorado Boulder at the end of the summer, and I'm very, very excited to hit the slopes out there. So thank you everyone for this year. I've learned a lot about the world and the way that people shape it. So good night and good luck to Dan and Natalie.
Anything for our student representative?
Yes.
Ms. Hero.
I generally get the pleasure of going to graduation, but this year I can't. So I just wanted to wish you good luck, congratulations, and to all the other seniors who are graduating, I wish you the best of luck.
Ms. White.
I just wanted to say thank you to you, Petra, because if you weren't here, Kyle was here. And not only were you here at the beginning, you guys sat through every minute, every second, every hour, many, many hours, many late nights. But you did more than just sit here, you participated. And I think you are, in all of my years on the board, the first student who actively participated, sharing opinions, questions, advocating for your peers, even when you were saying things that perhaps some of us didn't want to hear. And I think we respect what you did tremendously this year, and we hope that the legacy lives on next year. So thank you very much.
Mr. Kuhn.
I also want to thank you and Kyle for your contributions this year on the board. I agree with what Mrs. White just said. I've been on the board for a long time, and it was very refreshing and eye-opening to have students, participating in the conversations that we had this year. I know it's been an interesting year, Are you giving one of the graduation speeches? Because you're really good at it. You're not? Okay. Well, I'll be at graduation, so I will be able to congratulate you again there. But thank you so much, and good luck next year.
Okay, that'll bring us to board president's comments. Also, Petra, thank you. It's been a pleasure having you up here. I think I can speak for everybody. We all wish you the best of luck, and you're going to do great things out in Colorado. Good luck. So it's the last meeting of the year prior to graduation. And congratulations and good luck to the entire class of 2023. Class holds a special place for me. I've known many of them since they were small. And now seeing the young adults they've grown into, I think we can be confident that they've all received a first-rate public education and that they're prepared for whatever the next stage of their journeys are. So good luck to the entire class of 2023. Also, congratulations to the graduating 8th graders and welcome to Ridge. Welcome to all the new students who are entering the system next year. And although we don't always agree on the specifics up here, we are all working to ensure that every student in the district gets the same outstanding education that our graduating seniors have received, and it will prepare them for whatever challenges lay ahead. And lastly, we're going to recognize district retirees and teachers of the year. One retiree that I just want to talk a little bit about is Mr. Shello. Anyone can steer the ship when the seas are calm, and it's during the storm that leadership is needed. And that's what Mr. Shello, our retiring athletic director, provided during COVID. He guided the athletic department through outbreaks and uncertainty, and in doing so, Mr. Shello, I think you saved a lot of kids from many of the bad outcomes we're seeing right now. When other teams canceled because of an outbreak, you found opponents for Ridge to play on a dime. You helped navigate protocols, transportation, communication with parents, coaches, other districts. You've been a constant presence, nights, weekends, it didn't matter, you're always there. And these efforts were invaluable to these students, and they provided them a sense of normalcy when nothing else was normal. And on a personal level, I deeply, deeply thank you for that. We wish Mr. Shello all the best of luck in a very well-earned retirement. Thank you. And what does that bring us to? Acknowledgement of Teachers of the Year.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Markarian. I'm the superintendent. It's really wonderful to see everyone here tonight. We get the privilege every year of having a really enjoyable meeting as our last Board of Education meeting during the school year. Obviously, we do have our graduation ceremonies this Friday, so this is our last board meeting of the active school year. We will have an additional board meeting in June, but obviously that's going to be after graduation. So we always choose this meeting, our last meeting of the school year, to recognize our Teachers of the Year and our retirees. So it's really a fun opportunity to kind of bring the year to some closure and celebrate our staff during the same week that we're celebrating our students and their graduations or their movings up. So without further ado, we're going to start with our Teachers of the Year. Each of the principals is here to speak on behalf of the Teacher of the Year that was elected in their buildings. And we're going to start off with Dr. Lazovic for Ridge High School. And I saw him a second ago. Oh, there he is, on his way down. Thank you, Dr. Lazovic.
Thank you, Mr. Markarian. You got me going first. Switching it up today. Good evening, everybody. When I was interviewing here at Berners Township 3 years ago, I did a bunch of research, and I was incredibly excited coming in for my interview because of what I learned about Berners Township School District and Ridge High School specifically. Reading the program of studies, I was blown away by the offerings that we made available, that our professionals put together and work with the students on every single day, reading these descriptions of courses that clearly were created by passionate, energetic, caring, committed professionals. I was very excited when I sat down at that table to learn more about the school and the district because they clearly cared deeply about exposing students to as many different things as possible. One of those things that I did notice is that Berners Township School District has a full-blown dance program. And dance is a requirement here in New Jersey, but most school districts usually meet that requirement by including dance as a very small part within the physical education program, but not here in Berners Township. Dance is usually not found in districts not because of the overall expense, not because districts can't write a curriculum, not even because they can't find the space in the buildings to offer a dance program. More difficult than the unicorn that is the duly certified physics special education teacher, it is almost impossible to find a highly qualified, passionate, certified dance teacher to lead a public school program, and that is not the case here. And so I'm pleased to talk about a very special teacher here at Ridge High School, and she's going to walk down from the back where I was. Miss Miranda, can you come up and join me? So as she's walking up, just a story that I did not know about her, I mentioned how difficult it is to find a teacher. Well, it turns out that Miss Rachel Miranda almost never ended up at Ridge High School to begin with. Hey, Miss Miranda, good evening. Long walk, I know. In the early years of our dance program here, it was October of the very first year of our current supervisor. And one of the tasks that he was vigorously told to complete was to hire a brand new dance teacher. And at that point, he went to the assistant superintendent and asked that another ad be placed in the paper because we weren't getting any new candidates. And the assistant superintendent, whom I did not get to meet, but I am told was incredibly persuasive, let him know, quote, "I will not. It is embarrassing to keep placing ads for the same position in such a short period of time. Look through your files and find someone, anyone." So the supervisor, not wanting to let down the assistant superintendent, went back to the files that were left by his predecessor, and knowing that he did not want to push back in any way, shape, or form, realized that he had to find someone. And so he went through the resumes again, and he came across the resume of a Rachel, is it Fallis? Fallis at the time. On the cover letter, there was some notes that basically indicated that the interviewer at the time didn't feel she was qualified. However, our supervisor did not stop with the cover letter. He dug into the resume and thought for a second, I don't understand why we didn't bring this person in. She has the prerequisite skills, she comes from a strong program, and she's got quite a bit of experience in the field. Not to mention, she also holds a certificate in English language arts. So the interview occurred, and to his great glee, he was able to push on a candidate for board approval, and the rest, as he said, is history. And so let me tell you a little bit about Miss Rachel Miranda. Her students could not say enough about her. When we first made this announcement back in December here at the high school, a number of them wrote to me, thrilled that she was being recognized for something they already knew, which that she was their Teacher of the Year. They said that she built the program from scratch, bringing together people from all different backgrounds and experiences, and instilling in them the confidence to be themselves and the desire to work as a team. Another student said that it is not common to come across a teacher as inspiring as Miss Miranda. She does truly the impossible. I have quite literally seen her put on 3 dance competitions, 2 dance showcases, and choreograph a musical all in the same week. She gave me the opportunity, this student, to enjoy the Ridge Drama Club when she invited me to be her dance assistant. And she was the person that made possible my transition from middle school to Ridge in such a swift and successful way. She's the reason I decided to do a dance independent study with her as my mentor, and why I want to be a dance educator in the future. She gives her students a place and a community to relax and decompress from the stresses of the high stresses of the world around us, and I could not think of a better person more worthy of this award than Mrs. Miranda. It's interesting that a staff member said almost the exact same thing. When I came to Ridge, it felt big and scary, and Miss Miranda was the one who held my hand through the transition, always answering questions, giving words of encouragement, and providing honest feedback. I feel unbelievably lucky to have her. Outside of Ridge High School, Miss Miranda is extremely active in the dance community, not just attending conferences, but presenting on various topics. She is incredibly well regarded and respected by other dance teachers. However, more than her list of awards, certifications, and accolades, many of which she's received while here, she is, as all of our faculty commended, the ideal colleague, the perfect balance of hardworking, easy to work with, and always up for collaboration. She puts in all the extra time, energy, and love to always make every project excellent. She's warm, friendly, and welcoming. She truly loves her students, her program, her profession, her colleagues, and Ridge High School. One of her colleagues actually said, "I only hope to be half the educator that she is." She is truly an inspiration to me. Having observed Miss Miranda both on stage here in the PAC and in classrooms as well as in the hallway, she truly does have a wonderful way with the students. They respond to her incredibly. She responds to them with patience, kindness, compassion, and fun. She demands excellence from her dancers, from all of her students, and from those in the Ridge community, but she leads them in a professional way, teaching them to be organized, unified, successful, and most important, happy. Rachel Miranda gives so much to the RHS community. Last year, she was one of the 3 teachers who made our first school-wide full day of service, Ridge Gives Back, possible, volunteering her own time above and beyond everything else that she was doing. Not just for our dance students, she has created a program that, for years, has provided this community with something that most communities are sorely lacking across the state, and that is the gift of dance. All of our students are more open and experienced because of Miss Miranda and her work. So I am honored to present to all of you Ridge High School's Teacher of the Year for the 2022-2023 school year, Miss Rachel Miranda.
Congratulations, Rachel. Thank you, Dr. Lazovic. Next up, we have Mrs. Hudak for William Anna Middle School.
Thank you. Ms. Gambino, Patricia Gambino, please come forward. Ms. Pat Gambino is the William Annan Teacher of the Year, and this acknowledgement comes from a very special place. In our building, we have the opportunity to have both parents, staff, and students nominate, and Ms. Gambino's nomination came from one of her students directly, indicating the impact and power that she has had on them as an individual, in their learning, in their life, and their acquisition of mathematics skills. Ms. Gambino is a middle school mathematics teacher who has dedicated over 35 years to education. She has taught in Burns Township for 23 of those years and is highly respected by many students, families, and colleagues. She is the epitome of a veteran mentor teacher. She's caring, attentive, helpful, dedicated, organized. She has been a pillar of strength for many of us, her colleagues, her students, and she always puts everyone first. She lends an ear when needed, reminds of how things to do and what is most important, which is their students. Ms. Gambino can anticipate the needs and questions of any one of her students, and she comes prepared every day to tackle those challenges. She not only meets their needs academically, but also socially and emotionally, making sure that they all feel welcome and safe in her classroom. Her warmth and genuine care is not limited to that of her students. Many of us in this room have experienced that on multiple levels. She is a well-respected member of her community, and she serves all of us as team leader for 2 decades, and she continues to join committees like the well-being of our faculty and the SEL for our students. Her colleagues find themselves seeking her out for advice, myself included, for many of their own personal needs, whether school or home related. She has been called the voice of reason by her colleagues, as she always takes such a very calm, practical, and realistic approach. After 30+ years of teaching, Ms. Gambino realizes the importance of her experiences and uses it to her advantage. She is a wonderful and amazing mother to 2 kids, Ridge alumni, and countless other WAMS kids, both staff and students. She is a wonderful role model for them on how it is to be kind, caring, and respectful to everyone, no matter who comes through the door. She gets positive feedback always from her students. As I mentioned, one had recognized her for this award, as well as her parents who work with her and the teachers and the administration within the building. She truly is a positive leader among the educational community. Ms. Gambino was also recognized at the Somerset County Education Association in 2019 as Mentor of the Year and as a teacher who rocks the class of 2021 by WDHA radio station. She truly loves what she does and has a passion for teaching and learning, and that has not wavered under any circumstances, no matter how many years in education it has been. It is my honor to recognize Ms. Gambino as WAM's Teacher of the Year.
Congratulations, Pat. Thanks, Karen. So next up, Mr. Paul Simpola is here to recognize the Cedar Hill School Teacher of the Year. Paul?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to ask Mrs. Megan Van Pelt to come up. Mrs. Megan Van Pelt is an outstanding teacher and colleague. She embodies what it means to be an educator who is dedicated, inspiring, and making a difference in her students' lives. These qualities are evident the moment one walks into Megan's classroom. There is a calm, friendly, and purposeful atmosphere in the air. Students are working, learning, and interacting with each other and Mrs. Van Pelt respectfully. This atmosphere is no accident. Megan is incredibly adept at creating and nurturing a classroom community where her students value each other's talents and contributions and respect each other's challenges. Megan is always willing to help her students and meet their needs. Mrs. Van Pelt is always eager to teach, and she always provides students with a sense of comfort. She considers each student's learning needs when preparing lessons and activities. Her classroom is safe, and students can easily access anything they need for an assignment. When her students require a resource beyond the regular classroom, Megan seeks those resources, both in the form of a special supply or perhaps specialized human resource, such as an instructional support teacher, school guidance, or the child study team. Beyond the classroom, Megan serves as the third grade team leader. She has a close professional relationship with her fellow team members, and she unifies the grade level's approach to all needs and situations. She runs weekly grade level meetings. She communicates regularly with administration, guidance, and other school specialists. Megan maintains a professional, caring relationship with her students' parents. She keeps them informed of classroom activities and instruction. She's responsive to parent questions and concerns. Megan is both flexible and positive in her thinking, and she is also willing to stand up for what she believes is in the best interest of her students and her colleagues. Beyond Cedar Hill, Megan was most recently representing Cedar Hill on the District Professional Development Committee. She regularly provides input and feedback to this committee and relays information to the Cedar Hill faculty and staff. Academically, her students do well. Mrs. Van Pelt implements the third grade curriculum with fidelity and provides differentiation where individuals and groups of students need that assistance. Her students demonstrate high levels of understanding on both in-house and state standardized assessments. Mrs. Van Pelt has been teaching for 20 years. She is well respected by students, parents, colleagues, and administrators. Megan strives for the best in her students. She is a role model and friend to her colleagues. Cedar Hill is fortunate to have Megan Van Pelt on its faculty and is proud to have her as Cedar Hill's 22-23 Governor's Educator of the Year. Congratulations.
Thanks, Paul. Congratulations, Megan. Okay, our Teacher of the Year for Liberty Corner School could not be here tonight. That's Ms. Nicole Williams. So congratulations to Nicole. And Ms. Hosany is here for Mount Prospect's Teacher of the Year.
Front and center. Good evening, I'm Joanne Hosany, Principal of Mount Prospect School. I'm Lisa Vitale Stanzione, Supervisor of Special Education.
And you get 2 for the price of 1.
Okay, so I get to start. Mrs. Joyce Ansanu Lucy.
You got it.
Okay, because we never say that name, we usually just say Mrs. O, but I'm going to do it because I know phonics. Holds a BA degree in psychology and an MA degree in elementary education from Fairleigh Dickinson. Joyce began her career, because I want to talk to you, too. Joyce began her career in Irvington Elementary School. It was very clear from the beginning she had a passion for working with struggling students. She moved into a self-contained classroom where she modified curriculum, differentiated it, as well as helped all teachers and colleagues alike. Miss O, now I can do that, affectionately known by her students and also colleagues and parents, is a delight to be receiving and joining the Mount Prospect School community as a Teacher of the Year. She is highly respected. She is a member of the school community. She's an outstanding educator. She is intelligent, dedicated, caring, organized beyond belief. She's also the special ed grade level leader. So before I even know what I need to do, she tells me what I need to do, and then she does it for me. So it's lovely. Her lessons are creative, they're engaging, and dynamic. Her students respond positively. She creates a rapport with parents, and above all, it is clear that you love teaching, and teaching loves you. I still can recall, and we talk about this often, meeting you for the very first time in Nestie's office at Mount Prospect, sitting at that little round table, reading all the positive vibes and thoughts, and as soon as you walked out the door, we looked at each other and we knew you were the one. And we started the Rec for Hire, did everything, and we are so glad that you were here. You are a joy. You taught me all about Black Friday and all the great specials that day, so I'm very happy. My husband's not always, but that's okay. But we love you, and you could not ask, and the students, I could not ask for a better colleague and also leader. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, we're not done. It's my turn. I mean, keep it going, because this woman deserves applause, applause. As a classroom teacher, she welcomes challenges and opportunities that every new school year presents. She makes every effort to connect with her students. She goes out of her way to include social emotional learning into her daily practice. Her commitment to Mount Prospect School community is evident in all she does for the school culture and climate for students alike. She can be found organizing our 5th graders for the PEP squad or running our staff school spirit committee. She advocates for all individuals to ensure that all our needs are being met. What is the most special thing about Miss O? There aren't enough words to describe her. Her effervescent personality, her drive, her humor, her humility, her happiness are just to name a few. What teacher do you know can step and say, "Good morning, good people," with a bubbly smile and a sing-song voice every morning that she comes in? Well, maybe not the step, that's only once in a while. Her students love her, her colleagues admire her, and she treats everyone with dignity and respect. She brings people together as a family. She spreads love no matter where she goes. I, for one, am a richer, better person just by knowing you. She's a beautiful soul, and I appreciate every single thing that you do, day in and day out. She's behind the scenes, in front of the camera, behind the camera. She's always there. You are someone who is dependable, responsible, and you are most deserved of this Teacher of the Year award. Congratulations.
Okay, congratulations, Joyce, and thank you, Lisa and Joanne. Okay, last but not least, Ms. Foley is here for Oak Street.
Hello, everybody. I'm here to talk about Kristen Bobowitz, who is a really humble person. So this part is very painful for Kristen as she comes up here. I'm really glad to do it because she's super deserving. Wait, I'm going to give her a hug to start her off. Okay. A little bit of background. Kristen has been at Oak Street for 21 years, and she's been in education for a total of 30 years, including working in Tewksbury and North Brunswick. In Bernards Township, she was a first grade teacher, and then an ELA instructional support teacher and a reading specialist. She's the proud mom of Connor, who went through Bernards Township school system, and the wife of Brian, who also faithfully served the Bernards Township community in the police department for many years. I want to talk about her relationship with students first, because I know that's the most important thing to her heart. She is sincere and patient and warm and welcoming, and she has incredibly high expectations for her students and unwavering support to help them achieve their goals. Her reading strategy experience is unmatched. But along with academics, she's also there for the social and emotional part of students. She can figure out why a kindergartner is crying, what they ate or didn't eat for lunch and why, what happened actually on the bus as they get off. Somehow she's magically can do all of these things. Families trust her deeply for her advice and support. When it comes to colleagues, she is a wealth of support for all of us. She's generous, collaborative. She has strong communication skills. She's an amazing co-teacher and mentor. We do professional development training spaces, and people are thrilled when they get to be near her and see her work and have them help her learn. She's always learning and offering her expertise for all aspects of student life. In terms of Oak Street Schools, she helps us run the whole place. She's a crossing guard. She does bus duty with us. She's on the crisis management team. She's on the beautification committee. She's always ready to make Oak Street the best place it can be. She's a problem solver. She's always there with a solution. And she serves the district as a mentor and curriculum writer. On the personal side, she has great pride, commitment to her work, very intelligent, an excellent listener. She's a tireless worker, and she is very dependable and reliable. She will do everything. She helped us figure out how to feed 200 children in 7 minutes. I'm really proud of that, actually, for field day. We had them all have lunch at the same time. Russ, I don't know how you do that. That's crazy. But we did it. And she will do anything from the least important task to the most important task in the building. She's always ready to pitch in. Somerset County respectfully honored her as County Teacher of the Year in 2009-2010. Our process at Oak Street includes peer nomination and a committee decision, and the widespread support of Kristen among staff, students, is admirable and not surprising to me. I used a lot of their platitudes this evening, as I told you what a great educator she was. I count Kristen as a teacher, leader, and I value her as a colleague and friend every day. For these reasons, I am deeply proud to congratulate Kristen Bobowitz as Oak Street Teacher of the Year for 2023.
Okay. Congratulations, Kristen, and thanks to our administrators for being here tonight on behalf of their Teachers of the Year and for families and friends supporting individuals for joining us. Next, we're going to move on to our retirees. Not all of our retirees were able to be here tonight, but we certainly want to spend a little bit of time with those folks that were able to take us up on the offer to be here tonight. I'm going to start with Mr. Rich Shello. So Rich, come on up here. I promise you won't have to stay up here too long. Okay, Rich. So I talked to Rich a little bit. I said, Rich, I'm going to be speaking on your behalf. And he said, just remember, I get the last word. So Rich is retiring after a 43-year career in education. Rich began his career in 1980 after earning his BS in physical education from Springfield College, Massachusetts. And from 1980 to 1998, Rich worked as a secondary physical education teacher and a coach, often football. In those 18 years, Rich worked for the Wardlaw Hartridge School in Edison, the Plainfield High School, Westfield High School, and lastly, Livingston High School before coming to Burns Township in 1998. During this time, Rich also earned his master's in exercise science from the University of Massachusetts Amherst and his supervisor's certification from Kane College. So Rich came to us in 1998 as our supervisor of health and physical education and our athletic director, a position he now retires from after 25 years of dedicated service to students, families, and staff. In 1998, when Rich got here, Ridge had about 800 students and 21 varsity teams. Now Ridge has 1,687 students and 32 varsity teams. And so you can see why Rich is so respected for shouldering this load and why so often he hears the statement, "I don't know how you do it." Without a doubt, Rich has one of the toughest jobs in the district, and he has handled it with ever-present grace, calm, and success. Success. Always such a challenging word in sports these days. Rich, I want to thank you for not benchmarking success strictly on wins and losses. The growth and improvement of players and coaches, a fun and safe experience for our students, a great way for them to learn and mature as individuals, and how to come together as a team and a community. Good sportsmanship, good spectatorship, and this is what Rich is always talking about. Thanks for working to make all of these so important for our athletes, students, staff, and families. Not to say we all didn't enjoy the 5 consecutive ShopRite Cups from 2015-16 to 2019-20, just saying. All the state championships and so on. But we all know, and anyone that spends any time with you knows, what you really stand for is much deeper than those accolades. For those that don't know Rich, it can be hard to relate how dedicated he has been. How dedicated he has been to our district and his profession. Rich has integrity and an unreal work ethic. Rich is always around and always willing to help. He's a great mentor and leader among his peers. Rich has volunteered countless hours in a host of leadership positions with the NJSIAA. And to share a little bit more insight into how special Rich is, I want to share a few words from the coaches who know him so well. So Ken Marsh wrote, "I've been fortunate to work for one athletic director my entire head coaching career at Ridge. I could not be more grateful to Rich for taking a chance on me as a young head coach when I began coaching lacrosse at Ridge 23 years ago. Rich has a tremendous standard for athletics at Ridge. He's always helpful and supportive of his staff. He puts in an unbelievable amount of hours to the job, whether it is attending athletic events at Ridge or the fact that he's always available when a problem arises when he's not even at the school. Rich will truly be missed by the many that have worked for him, and I wish him the best in his retirement." Katie Donahue wrote, "As I enter my 20th year of coaching, I can say without a doubt the following things I've observed throughout the past 2 decades. First, Rich is respected by other ADs and coaches. Second, Rich is a man of integrity and principle and does what is right even when it's not convenient. Third, Rich is there to offer support and mentorship regardless of the outcome of the season. I'm grateful for the time, calm demeanor, unwavering support, and the open door Rich has shown me throughout the years." Finally, Kim Clark. Now, Kim had a lot to write, Rich, but she said I could make a bit of an abridged version. So I did the best I could, but she had some cool things to share. So Kim wrote, 15 years ago, Rich Shello took a risk hiring a 24-year-old brand new teacher and coach. My story's not unique. There are plenty of teachers and coaches who have had a similar experience with Mr. Shello. I believe this is one of the things that truly makes Rich a great athletic director. He empowers his coaches and gives us independence, but also provides us with mentorship and unfaltering support. I've gone to Rich innumerable times with questions, coaching scenarios, parent issues, and never once has Rich turned me away or told me he was too busy. Despite running an athletic program with over 70 teams, Rich has always made time for me. When you really consider what Rich and Judy, his administrative assistant, are able to orchestrate on a daily basis, it's pretty mind-blowing. Not only does Rich assure that our varsity teams are uniformed, equipped, scheduled, transported, officiated, and coached, that fields are maintained, lined, and playable, that parents, fans, and other spectators are adhering to the expectations of the athletic programs, he also gives that same level of attention to freshman and JV programs. So you might remember what I said earlier. I don't know how you do it. Kim goes on to say, I would like to highlight a personal story that I shared with the Ridge staff earlier this year that I think illustrates how impactful Mr. Shell has been to the Ridge High School community. During the fall of 2019, our field hockey team was in the state sectional semifinals against top-seeded North Hunterdon. This was an incredibly exciting game that went into double overtime. When we scored the sudden victory game winner, celebration ensued. When I emerged from the huddle and looked toward the sideline, I saw Mr. Shello standing there clapping, a huge smile on his face. I immediately went over and gave him a huge hug. In that moment, I felt the sense of pride and accomplishment that one feels when you're celebrating with a parent. When I looked over and saw Mr. Shello celebrating, he was not only celebrating the win for the student athletes, but also the win for a coach who he has always believed in. And that is why Mr. Shello is a great athletic director, not because of the championships his coaches win, but because his coaches know that he truly cares about them as people and their joy becomes his own. So I thought that was a great story I wanted to share with you. For me, Rich, thank you for always answering my calls or calling me back right away at any time of day or night, and I mean that sincerely. I thank you for your 25 years of service to the students, staff, and families of our district. Congratulations on a well-deserved retirement. I hope you get many years to enjoy it with your family. Congratulations. And you can say something if you want. Got your readers.
Got my readers, yeah. Didn't have these 25 years ago. Thank you, Mr. Markarian. And Mr. Molinari, thank you as well for your kind words and comments. Greatly appreciated. What a relief driving in tonight. It's raining, and I don't have to worry about fields are playable. Are we going to get the game in today, tomorrow? You know what? That's going to be somebody else's problem from here on out. So that was a great feeling. I want to thank the Board of Education, the administrative team, the many teachers, coaches, trainers, and colleagues that I have worked with, and of course, two wonderful administrative assistants, Mrs. Marion Lardier, who unfortunately recently passed away as a resident in town, and my current assistant, Judy Schroeder. These two fine women have kept me on task and humbled over the last 25 years, and it's a team job. It's not just one person. My retirement from Berners Township completes a career as a teacher, a coach, an athletic administrator. As Dick mentioned, began in 1980. Seems like yesterday I was signing my first contract after graduating from Springfield College for a grand sum of $10,000, which included coaching all 3 seasons. We've come a long way. I thank this school district for the opportunity to serve as the athletic director. In the interview process, I always remembered they asked, how will I be able to get everything done given the large responsibility of the position? My answer simply was, I will work hard to ensure that everything gets done. And I believe that I've held to that commitment for the students at Ridge and within the district. I've worked hard and given my best every day. The work here has been a labor of love for me. I've proudly watched so many young men and women put it on the line and challenge themselves to become the very best that they can. Through this, they have grown to become adults of strong character, sound values, and great integrity. While there have been wins, championships, and awards, those fade over time. It's the characteristics that they have developed that will remain with them for a lifetime. I will greatly miss my association and daily interaction with our teachers, coaches, trainers, staff members, administrators, and colleagues. The pats on the back, the the general laughter together. It just makes it a wonderful day to come to work with these fine people every day. To me, I was never a boss, but I was a servant and a resource to help them become successful. When they succeeded on the court, field, rink, or track, then I felt that I had succeeded as well. I am proud to call so many of these fine people a friend. My wife, Nora, who is here with me tonight, some of you probably didn't even know I was married, right? You've only seen me. But she's been a huge supporter and behind the scenes for me as well. Without her support and patience, I could have never managed this job for so long. She's raised our 3 children, often at times single-handedly when I was here supporting the children of others. I look forward to spending more time with her, traveling, playing some golf, and getting started on that honey-do list that has been growing for the last 37 years. This last year has been quite a ride with so many kind words shared from coaches, parents, and students. I've kind of felt like Derek Jeter or Mariano Rivera on the farewell tour. Thank you, Mr. Markarian, for your support and kind words this evening. I wish the best to the community, the district, and the Red Devils in the green uniforms. I'll be the biggest fan, and I will be following all our teams closely. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Jeff.
Hang on a second. So hang on a second there, Mr. Shello.
You want to borrow mine?
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben.
Best of luck on retirement.
I appreciate it. Good job.
So our board president traditionally provides our retirees a gift on behalf of the board. So that's for Rich. We have one for each of our retirees that are here tonight. And I forgot to mention for our Teachers of the Year, they might have noticed these metal placards that are up here on the stage. They get a reserved parking space for next year. So that's pretty cool for them. All right, next up, I'm going to speak a little bit about Mr. Paul Sampola. So, Mr. Sampola, come on up here. All right, excellent. Okay, Paul Sampola is retiring after 30 years of dedicated service to the students, staff, and families of the Berners Township School District. So congratulations, Paul. Paul began his career in Berners Township in 1993, having come to us after working 2 years in the Halden Public Schools. Paul, a Somerville High School graduate and Rutgers alumni in English education, was hired by Joan Tonarelli in 1993 at William Annan, serving as an English and social studies teacher until 2007. Paul continued his education, earning a master's in English from Hunter College and a master's in educational administration from New Jersey City University. In 2007, Paul joined the dark side, became an administrator, serving as an assistant principal from 2007 to 2012. Paul continued as an assistant principal, applying his talents at both Annan and Mount Prospect from 2012 to 2016. Principals were always fighting to get Paul at their school. Ultimately, Paul became the principal of Cedar Hill School in 2016 through today. Paul's service to the district is broad. In addition to his teaching duties, Paul was a leader in professional development, crisis response, and he served as a team leader. Paul also planned and conducted countless trips to Washington, D.C. for 8th grade students with his colleague, Tara Bowman. In fact, D.C. has not been the same since their escapades together, including the Tara Bowman Phillips Seafood House incident. As a teacher, Paul was known to be hardworking, loyal, honest, full of integrity, and dedicated to the continual development of his own craft and the progress of his students. These traits served Paul well as a teacher, an assistant principal, and ultimately principal. However, for those of us who know Paul best, he is most known for his calm, his kindness, and the joy he takes in helping other people, staff, students, and families. For us, we love to work with Paul, not only because he is a great professional, but also because he's just an awesome human being. And Joanne, I did not steal this from you, but I wrote the kind of beautiful soul, see? Yeah, you read my mind and stole my words. The kind of beautiful soul that people just like to be around. It's hard to describe, so I got a little bit of insight that I wanted to share with you from a couple of Paul's longtime colleagues. The aforementioned Tara Bowman wrote, "I owe a debt to Joan Tonarelli, our principal, when we began our careers. She actually hired Paul as a teacher in the middle school for me. She was looking to find me a husband." So to the rest of our principals, that is not a criteria for hiring people. Okay, we are not matchmakers. Little did she know that she had set up a wonderful friendship, which is very true, that has lasted 30 years and a tremendous asset to the school district. Paul treats everyone with respect in all aspects of his life. As a teacher, his priority has always been what is best for the student. As an administrator, his main focus has been what is best for his students, his teachers, and his school building. His ability to listen with compassion and to act with kindness and tenderness has left an indelible mark on all those here at Bernards Township. When I think of Paul, I am reminded of a quote by Judy Blume, "Our fingerprints don't fade from the lives we touch." I'm proud to call Paul my friend and look forward to making new memories in our retirement phase of life. I just hope they stay out of DC. Chrissy Euler. Chrissy wrote, "It has been an absolute pleasure working alongside Paul these past 7 years. His vibrancy shines through not only in his color choice for our faculty room and accent walls, but in his personality and interactions with others. Paul is a problem solver, very true, and he works hard each and every day to make Cedar Hill the place it is today. He's even been known to drop by on the weekend to plant marigolds and build a watering system so they have the care they need to thrive. These marigolds are a symbol of the way he cared for each and every person that walked through the doors at Cedar Hill. Paul has been the most amazing mentor, boss, and friend. His laugh, his leadership, and his love of Cedar Hill will be missed." So on a personal level, I want to thank Paul for being someone who has been tremendous to have on our administrative team. He's been a great leader in the BTAA. Paul, I thank you for the reasonableness and fairness you always bring to the table and for your willingness to problem solve and to be a team player for the benefit of our students. I thank you for the countless hours you have put in to go the extra mile to make Cedar Hill School a special place for staff, students, and families. And lastly, thank you for your kindness to me and for always finding a way to make me laugh. You always bring some light to the dark side. Congratulations on 30 amazing years in the Bernards Township School District, and I wish you nothing but the best in your retirement.
Everybody old with glasses. First of all, congratulations to all the retirees and educators of the year being honored this evening. Thank you to the Board of Ed, Mr. Markarian, Mr. Saya, Mrs. Fox, for the opportunity to lead Cedar Hill School these past 7 years. I appreciate your confidence in me and in the guidance and the guidance over the past 16 years as a district administrator. Thank you to my fellow administrators. It's been a pleasure working with you day in and day out. There were a lot of tough days. You are a great team, and I have learned so much from you. I never would have been successful without my amazing core team, who was leading so many key areas in the building. So I just wanted to mention them by name. Leroy Sutherland, our maintenance tech. Amy Lynn, our school nurse. Jenna Halpin and Jess Dubois, our CST case managers. Lynn Rope and Chrissy Voorhees, our administrative assistants. Molly Mooney, Carrie Capozzi, and Lydia Costello, our school counselors. And of course, Chrissy Euler, our assistant principal. Chrissy, you've been a wonderful work partner, and I've loved every minute that we've been working together. I look forward to hearing about the amazing things you will do for our Cedar Hill community in the years under your tenure. And I see your new assistant principal sitting right there next to you. Very excited. Thank you to the Cedar Hill staff and faculty. I could not have asked for a finer group of educators to call my colleagues. Thank you for allowing me to serve Cedar Hill and for the love, joy, and learning you bring to our Golden Owls every day. Thank you to the parents of Cedar Hill. I learned early in my tenure as principal about the importance of a strong relationship between educators and parents. I see that strength every day through our interactions and all you do from home to support our students. In particular, thank you to the PTO boards and presidents with whom I have worked so closely these past 7 years. Thank you for supporting my vision, our vision for Cedar Hill, and enhancing the experience of our students through all the great projects we've undertaken. Thank you to the Cedar Hill students. I've so enjoyed working with our Golden Owls and watching them grow and learn. Last Thursday, we had our assembly, and the students sang a song for me that two parents, husband and wife, wrote. So I got through without crying. Mr. McCarran was there, Mrs. Fox was there. So they sang the song for me, acted it out. They wrote and drew two huge binders of letters and drawings for me. And they also made this, had to come with a prop, with this beautiful canvas. So it's every one of the students currently in Cedar Hill right now, it's their fingerprint. And you've left your print on CHS. So I think it's beautiful. I just want to thank my parents, Edward and Barbara, my mom, who is in the audience tonight, and my dad, who passed away about a month ago. Both were educators, and both encouraged me to pursue my dream of being a teacher as a young child. I actually started college as a business major, and I took a microeconomics course, and I came home and I said, I think I'm going to become a school teacher. And they said, we were just waiting for you to tell us that. So. And finally, I want to thank my husband, John. He has always supported my career in education. He's here tonight as well, and my niece, Katie. He supported me through 3 rounds of graduate classes that took almost 10 years to complete, schlepping into New York twice a week. So I really look forward to our adventures together. So my best wishes to everyone here, future success in Bernards Township. Thank you for celebrating my retirement and everyone else's for tonight, and I will miss you all. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Paul, and congratulations again to both Paul and Rich. Next up, we have Miss Allison Reed, who's going to speak on behalf of Patricia Sugrai.
Today we gather here to celebrate the remarkable journey and unwavering dedication of Pat Shugru, who has made a profound impact on the lives of our children with autism as a job coach, a certified driver, instructional aide, and esteemed colleague. It is with bittersweet mix of emotions that we bid farewell to an incredible individual who has not only served as a truly dedicated staff member, but has also become an irreplaceable part of our CBAP family. Actually, very irreplaceable, since she drives our students. Throughout Pat's 15 years tenure in this district, she has exemplified compassion, patience, and resilience. Her unwavering commitment to supporting and empowering children with autism has been nothing short of extraordinary. Every day, she walked through the doors of Bernards Township with a heart full of empathy and a determination to make a difference in the lives of those who needed it most. As an instructional aide working with children with autism, she has tirelessly worked to ensure that every child under her care receives the attention, encouragement, and opportunities they need to thrive. Her ability to connect with each student on a personal level, to understand their unique challenges, and to adapt her teaching strategies accordingly has been truly remarkable. Beyond an excellent job coach and certified driver for our students so they may get to work each day, she has instilled in them a sense of self-belief, helping them discover their strengths and nurturing their talents. She's encouraged them to dream big and has supported them in overcoming obstacles, unlocking their true potential. In addition to her professional accomplishments, Pat has also embraced the joys of family life. She is not only a proud mother, but also a doting grandmother to 10 grandchildren. Pat, may you embark on many more exciting adventures with your family in the years to come. We hope you enjoy your well-deserved trip to the Music Cities this fall in New Orleans, Memphis, and Nashville. I got those correct, right? While we are saddened to see you go, we also celebrate the many accomplishments and milestones you've achieved throughout your career. As you enter this well-deserved retirement, we hope you take the time to reflect on the profound impact that you have made. May you embrace the next chapter in life with the same enthusiasm, grace, and passion that has defined your career with us in Berners Township. On behalf of everyone here, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to your dedication, your service, and unwavering commitment to improving the lives of children with autism. Congratulations on your retirement, Pat. May this new phase of your life be filled with joy and relaxation. Congratulations.
Okay, last but not least, we have Mrs. Hudak, who's going to present for Mary Beth Gakos and Bill Stanzel. So, Ms. Hudak.
Thank you, Mr. Markarian. Mary Beth, if you could come forward, please. If you ever have had the pleasure of observing Ms. Gakos teach a lesson, you would see a veteran teacher who is truly gifted at the art of mathematics instruction. She also has a unique ability to understand the needs of the middle school mind. It is hard to imagine that teaching was not Mary Beth's first career. In fact, it was her third. Mary Beth has an industrial engineering degree from Lehigh University and an MBA from Drexel University. She worked at DuPont Company in Delaware for 13 years. A job change for her husband brought them to Basking Ridge, where she quickly immersed herself into the community. Mary Beth spent the first 10 years in Basking Ridge as a stay-at-home mom to her two sons, who are both Berners Township District alumni. In 2002, when her youngest son was in 5th grade, Mary Beth started substituting at the elementary schools in Basking Ridge. It just so happened that a permanent substitute position opened up at William Annan, and Mary Beth inquired about it to the then principal, Frank Hallett. Frank's advice to Mary Beth was, "You have 2 boys, you'll be just fine." Well, I could not thank Frank enough for his simplistic guidance to Mary Beth, as that conversation catapulted her into a career direction which directly benefited the students and staff of William Annan and Berners Township. After working as a permanent substitute for 2 years at William Annan, Mary Beth's reputation as an amazing substitute teacher who had a strong command for the classroom no matter what room it was, no matter what content area she was asked to be in, and who was naturally gifted in the area of instruction, was well known and high demand among our staff as substitutes. She was offered the opportunity to teach a long-term position on team. It was that placement and several other long-term placements opportunities where her colleagues began to encourage her to finally see the gift that we all saw before us and to go into the profession of education. Mary Beth took their advice, and she returned to the classroom where she enrolled in the College of St. Elizabeth, earning yet another degree in elementary education with a certification in K-12 mathematics and a certificate in middle school science. In September of 2007, Mary Beth became a full-time member, finally, of the William Annan family. During her employment, she has held a variety of positions in the math department, showing us her ability and willingness to be flexible and adapt to whatever challenge came her way. She taught math support, extra sections of math, Math 7, Math 8, algebra, geometry, and one very memorable year of honors geometry at Ridge. She spent the majority of her teaching career as a geometry teacher at William Annan Middle School. In addition to her teaching, she never shied away from taking on a new task, like being the New Jersey state coach for the mathematics competition, where she had the good fortune of actually coaching one of our William Manning students 2 years in a row on the state team. Or by trying new pedagogy in her instructional lessons like vertical thinking. Her dedication and devotion to her students and craft has been unwavering. She would provide additional support during whatever free time she had during the day. She created new opportunities for her students within the building to apply their learning, like measuring the 2-story windows in the cafeteria. Trigonometry. And oftentimes balancing her dual role as mom and teacher, spending hours grading geometry proofs on her car rides back and forth from Maine to support her son who was playing football at university. Mary Beth truly embodied all that an educator is, and what came before her were only the students and the school community. Her precious memories of her students growing over the time and bond that she has created with so many of the William Manning staff are just a few of the things that Mary Beth will remember most as she enters into this new journey of retirement. Mary Beth, as you begin your retirement, I wish you nothing but the best. I know that you are looking forward to spending time with your grandchildren and filling your calendar with travel plans. Please know no matter where you are, cruising around Greece in September, or watching the beautiful fall leaves peak in Vermont, you will always be a member of the WAMS family. Congratulations on your retirement.
I just want to say a couple of words. And the main thing that I want to say, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve the students in Bernards Township. And it's something I'll always treasure. Thank you.
Mr. William Stansel, please come forward. I'm not sure if you're laughing in celebration or laughing at me because I'm still here. So Bill attended James Madison University, and he graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree. He entered the business workforce, where he spent 10 years of his career until the company that he was working for closed. Soon after, he graduated from Rutgers University with a master's degree in education, and he began his teaching career in 1998 at Sampson G. Smith Middle School in Franklin Township Public Schools, teaching 7th grade literature and composition. There, he rewrote the 7th grade curriculum, received grant funding to start new literature programs. And when we asked his supervisor in Franklin, what would you say most about Bill? Miss Moses, I believe, said that you will love him. He is a team player who is a hard worker and knowledgeable, and we will miss him dearly. Well, Bill joined the Bernards Township District in September of 2002 as an English and language arts teacher to make his stamp on our school community. He quickly became immersed into our school system, both as a teacher and a parent, also of Ridge alumni. He worked very closely with his 7th grade colleagues to rewrite our curriculum, which he kindly told me he refers to as the crown jewel of the ELA department. Well, good work, very good work. The crown jewel included new core novels, revamping the Dickens unit, literature circles that supported cross-curricular Holocaust activities, which ultimately led to the culmination in our Holocaust Remembrance Day. Well, after spending just 10 years in the 7th grade, we decided it was time for Bill to graduate to 8th grade in the EL department, where he spent the remainder of his career. While working in 8th grade, Bill once again continued his dedication to the content area by revising and updating that curriculum, implementing new teaching strategies to enhance his instruction, and working closely with his colleagues. He was and still is an integral member of the 8th grade team to create and promote character education days, like the annual day of giving in 8th grade, that promoted a valuable experience for all of our students to understand the importance of volunteerism and giving back in our community. While at WAMS, Bill also had an impact outside of his classroom. He held positions like the yearbook advisor many moons ago. He was with Paul and Tara and me on those 15 years of Washington, D.C. trips. He was a team leader for numerous years, weekend detention coordinator, a mentor and a colleague to many. He also played on the Wham Slams floor many times and also was an announcer, where his sense of humor and devotion to the students, which is truly what Bill was all about, continued to prevail. When I think back to Bill's time at WAMS as a colleague and educator and the member of the WAMS family, I find myself comparing many of his professional career as a middle school educator to that of spending a day on the golf course. Yes, a place I am very confident that Bill has spent countless hours based upon his school picture this year. Wait for one moment, please. For those of you who cannot see, Mr. Sanslow is holding his golf club with his golf glove, and he's ready for tea time. The yearbook will be wonderful for those of you who have 8th graders. It's published. So, Bill, thank you to your colleagues for their help. There are many factors that go into a successful golf game: the weather, the condition of the greens, the slope of the golf course, your golf swing, where the golf ball lands, and your putt. There are also many factors that go into a successful lesson: the objective, the temperature conditions in your classroom. Yes, we do. The delivery of the instruction, the day, the period of the lesson, the activity, and the mastery of the material by the students. Golf can also be somewhat frustrating, unpredictable, but always rewarding. Well, teaching middle schoolers can also be somewhat frustrating, unpredictable, but so rewarding. And I believe that is why you are the gifted educator that you are, because you are dedicated to the students. Bill, as you begin the next journey of your retirement, I hope that you always think back to your time at WAMS, especially while on the golf course. The mulligans your students had in your classroom each and every day were meticulously transformed by the dedication of an educator like you, where you turned them into birdies and even some eagles. Do not forget that the impact that you had on your school, your colleagues, the administration you worked with, and the students, most importantly, that you served, will remain with them for many, many years to come. Best of luck on your retirement, and also best of luck on getting the homeowners association where you live to allow golf carts on the streets. Congratulations, Bill, on your retirement. Best of luck.
I have to say that I am impressed that she knows all that golf lingo. Wow, that was pretty good. I just have one quick story to say. About a dozen years ago, I went to a board meeting. It was around Veterans Day. And the reason why I went was because I had a little girl in class, Kathleen. This was still in 7th grade. This was my last year in 7th grade. And she had won an award for writing an essay. She was actually getting cash from the VFW in Bernardsville. So as an ELA teacher, I figured I would have to go and support my student who was turning words into cash. A good lesson for the rest of the kids. Anyway, we went to the board meeting, and it was in William Annan. And I don't think, as an educator, our minds ever turn off. We're always looking for something that we can change or do. So I saw her down there being presented this check and being honored by the VFW. And I remember the guy's name. It was Joe Bennett from the Bernardsville VFW. And I kept thinking about Holocaust Remembrance Day. And we always have a keynote speaker, Tova Friedman, who comes in and gives an incredible talk about her experiences. Well, I talked to Joe Bennett after this meeting and asked him if he had any World War II veterans that were still in the Bernardsville, I guess out of office or whatever. And he said, yeah, there were 5 that were still active over there. So we got to talking over the course of a couple of months and got him to bring these 5 guys in, and they talk to our 7th graders. Now, our Holocaust Remembrance Day is quite a production, and we have activities from every period of the day, culminating with Tova Friedman's discussion. And her presentation is incredibly powerful, to the point where she shows the video of her in Auschwitz coming down, showing the tattoo to the Russian soldiers who were liberating it. But the most powerful thing to me as an educator was after, on this particular day, she finished her presentation and then came down and thanked these 5 men who were these World War II veterans. And it was something that hopefully those 7th graders got to appreciate, because it will never happen again. We used to line the walls with a little activity where the kids would have to cut out an obituary from a World War II veteran and then do a little research on something that was in that. And we had these things lined up, so when the kids walked in silently for this last program, it was powerful. And for her to go down and thank these 5 men was just a moment. And it was something that as an educator I'll always remember, because that's what education does. And hopefully it taught these 7th graders also. But here's the wonderful thing. Petra talked about legacy. That little 7th grade kid, Kathleen Pascali, just finished up her first year teaching over at Oak Street. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for attending that part of our meeting. I know perhaps some of our retirees and Teachers of the Year might have other plans as we transition on to the next portion of our meeting. But thank you for everyone that came for the purpose of being here to support our Teachers of the Year and our retirees. And thank you to all the admins for speaking on their behalf. We normally do a little photo op for the Teachers of the Year, but I want to get all of them together, and since one couldn't be here tonight, we'll figure that out later and make a time to do that. So thanks again, and board members, we can head on back up. Thank you.
We're just going to give the board members who stepped out a moment to come back. All right, we're going to get started. All right, that's going to lead us up to superintendent's report. There are 2 items on the agenda. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Salmon? Second. Ms. Light? Any questions or comments on the items? Okay. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Ms. Light?
Yes.
Ms. Hira? Ms. McCune?
Yes.
Mr. Molinari?
Yes.
Mr. Amin?
Yes.
Ms. Chipak?
Yes.
And Mr. Rashio?
Mr. Markarian?
Okay, thank you. So a few things. First of all, this is, as I mentioned earlier, our last Board of Ed meeting before graduations and moving up at the end of the week. So I just wanted to take a minute to congratulate all of our students for their accomplishments, whether they are moving up from one grade to the next or perhaps graduating on Thursday in William Adams' graduation ceremony or on Friday in Ridge's graduation ceremony. And a special congratulations to our Ridge graduates as they move on to their next endeavor. Congratulations to all the families. We thank you for the support in helping the students reach this milestone accomplishment, and thanks to our staff for the same. Petra, I just wanted to wish her thanks as well for serving as our student rep all year. And I wanted to mention too, with respect to our recent situation with regard to our Ridge High School baseball team, we were on the unfortunate end of a NJSIAA rule related to pitch count that didn't go our way. So obviously we're disappointed by that. Our kids and staff have been great about it, but I do want the public to know that we are pursuing this with the NJSIAA to work, hopefully to contribute on something that might ultimately be an improvement in the rule in this area. So we'll work on that, and hopefully we'll get some support in moving forward with that. So we'll see how that goes. They have expressed a willingness and openness to take input and take a look at that rule. So we'll be working on that going forward. And thanks to our Board of Ed members helping us work through this school year, the 2022-23 school year, for all of their support for our staff and students. It's been a great year, and we look forward to another good one next year.
Okay, anything for Mr. Markarian? All right, that's going to bring us to public comment on agenda items. Please come forward if you'd like to comment on tonight's agenda. Sign in, state your name, and keep comments to 3 minutes or less.
Annika Forzani, Don Drive. I just have a couple of quick questions. In our previous discussions on transparency and improving transparency, a number of people here, people who actually often disagree on other issues, agreed on the desire to get minutes ahead of the meetings, because it's kind of hard to come up here and make comments on agenda items when we don't really have the details of what's going to be discussed. So I'm interested to know the status on getting minutes ahead of time. And just kind of following through on those transparency commitments. And to that end, for example, there's an agenda item that was in the Personnel Committee, item number 1, to approve reduction in force positions. So again, just curious, what does that really mean? Who is this happening to? If a job is going away due to a reduction of force, what actually is happening to the workload for that person? Is it going to be redistributed to staff who are already overwhelmed? I guess I'm just confused because we haven't done this full sort of personnel review to understand which positions could be going away. So just trying to understand that, but again, not seeing the minutes, detailed minutes, a little bit hard. So thank you.
Anybody else for public comment?
Hello, Neslahan Montag, 41 Essex Place. I'll try to talk fast. I want to commend Jen White for hosting last week's outstanding brew presentation at Ridge. Students spoke so eloquently about how badly Ridge hustle culture affects their health, describing themselves as wired and tired, trying to keep up with studies, activities, and college prep pressures. But their comments underscored the importance of giving students mental health and wellness the attention it deserves and making sure every student gets the assistance they need, whether it's APs or other supports. We can have the nicest softball fields in the world, but if our students aren't getting the help they need, then no softball field is going to change that. It was great seeing Ms. McEwen and Mr. Salmon at the brew too, and hopefully the rest of the board can watch the recording at some point. It's really well done. It's too bad they missed such a valuable opportunity to hear directly from the students, but based on their comments and actions, it looks like they could definitely use a better understanding of the gravity of students' mental health issues in our district. So as we wrap up the school year, there's at least one burning question that we're still waiting an answer on, and that is why, more than 6 months since the new textbook was offered to replace it, students are still being forced to use an essentially unusable 11th grade sociology book. Their books are literally falling apart with broken spines, missed, ripped pages. They're outdated, don't mention COVID, not engaging, and inaccessible to more challenged learners. This board was presented with a new book that solved all that. Board members raised 2 objections, and they were both addressed, so the proposed book should have been approved. Instead, you made teachers vet another book, and then the same board members objected again and refused to approve that board. Never mind that this is normally a very brief, simple, straightforward process that's largely done in committee. So let's be very clear, by spending over 6 months rejecting one book after another, even after teachers addressed your concerns, you're wasting everyone's time and needlessly forcing our students to use outdated, inaccessible books that are literally falling to pieces. All this time and effort that should be going to actually getting work done to serve our district. We see the same people keep dragging their feet, moving the goalpost, and preventing the board from completing what has always been a very simple process. It's certainly not from any major community concern because the book's been available for inspection at the board office, and of our 4,806 students in our district, how many people cared enough to even go and take a look? 1. There was 1 person who came in to look at the book. Whether you're on the board or not, if you have individual concerns about the sociology textbook or the health curriculum for that matter, we respect that. But the sociology course is an elective. If you have an issue with the textbook, then your child doesn't have to take the course. If you're not comfortable with the health curriculum, you can opt out. Otherwise, our teachers will always work with you to tailor the curriculum with discussions and activities to ensure a balanced perspective. That's truly a concern. But no textbook is perfect. You can take any objective topic and try to make it controversial. Any real concerns can be addressed, but please stop trying to create issues where none exist and stop abusing our textbook approval process to try to impose your subjective views on our students. This is about much more than one book. It's about some board members' continued efforts to substitute their own unqualified opinions over the recommendations of trained professionals and their continued attempts to restrict students' access to information by claiming that proposed books don't offer balanced perspectives. Enough. Please, let's move on and be done with it so our students can have a proper functioning book that addresses the needs of all learners. And let's be clear, downplaying the significance of a single textbook like some board members do, everyone knows the hypocrisy is hard to miss. On the one hand, some board members are complaining about state-mandated health curriculum taking away their rights as parents to decide what they want their children to learn, and at the same time, the same people are trying to tell all the other parents in the district what their children should and shouldn't learn. So please go back and approve the first book since your concerns were both addressed. You are undermining our students' civic education by denying them access to the objective facts. What are you so afraid of? That students might actually learn something that's not totally consistent with your personal views? We respect your right to think whatever you want, but please stop trying to impose your subjective views on everyone else. We don't want it and we don't need it. Our teachers, our students, our community, we respect your right to your own personal views, whatever they are, but those views have no place in our students' education. When you're up there on that dais, you're here to serve our district, our students, and our community, not yourselves. So please keep your views where they belong in your own home. Listen, there's a whole lot of different ice cream flavors out there in the world. If you want to stick with vanilla, go right ahead. You want your child to only have vanilla and not even know there are other flavors? That's your prerogative as a parent, but other people may want their kids to have chocolate or strawberry.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Okay. It's an imperfect analogy, obviously, and oversimplified, but you get the point. Please don't just deny students access to information or ideas because you don't agree with it. It is not your place, and it is not welcome. Thank you.
Sherry Nelson, 195 Smoke Rise Road. I didn't see textbook approval anywhere on this agenda, but I guess if we can talk about it now, I'm going to talk about it too. I sat through all of those meetings and I listened to teachers give a lot of conflicting information and tell us that we can use supplemental materials. We don't just have to go by the textbook. And then others saying, oh, we have to have this textbook. We have to have everything we need in this textbook. So I don't know which it is. It was very conflicting. But sociology is an elective. It's not a required class. So no child has to sit in that class. If you don't like the textbook, the board ends up approving. The people who have compared this to banning books are insulting our intelligence. We know the difference in banning a book and approving a textbook, which is the legal obligation of our Board of Ed. They are appointed to do that, not the teachers or the administrators. And then I'll speak about something that actually is on the agenda. The Trends in Mental Health and Social Emotional Learning update that Mr. Markarian shared. I looked through that and I just had a few questions. My kids are older now. I really kind of looked at the high school more than the other schools, and the suicide interventions was a really high number, and I don't understand, it's not clearly defined, what is a suicide intervention in district. I know there were some parents a while back that were like, we've had X number of suicide attempts in town because they see these reports. And so I think we need to make sure that the wording is really clear so people understand. I don't understand, but I know that wasn't 1,000 suicide attempts in town. But tying in with that, the brew, I came to the panel discussion with the kids, and my takeaway, and I talked to a lot of other people who were there, the stressors on our kids are coming from us, guys. It's the parents. I heard them loud and clear. The expectations to volunteer X number of hours, the expectations to work a job, play sports, get the grades, the GPA, the SAT, to get into that school. Parents, you're putting that on your kids. There's only so much the school can do to relieve that stress. There are things, some of the kids suggested doing something better with the wellness days for the kids. I think there were a lot of great ideas. I also thought maybe for the school communication with the students, one of the kids on the panel didn't even know that we had student assistants, counselors, information like that. But guys, most of it's on us. We've got to do better for our kids. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. This is Eva Deffenbaugh, Valley Road. Probably the last time I'll say I'm Petra's mom. And I just wanted, first of all, Sherry did all the balloons, just so you know, so she did a great job on that. But totally irrelevant, but it was much appreciated to get those outside today. I wanted to say that the student representative position, which is on the agenda, is a thankless position. As you know, as board members, you spend hours and hours and hours on the board. And as you see, my daughter did the same thing. There is no reward for that besides the experience, in my mind, beyond it didn't get her into college. It didn't get her better grades because, you know, she was here as long as she was. So for that point, I would just like to thank the 3 board members who took the time while my daughter was up here to give a clear and specific thank you to her. I had given her flowers, but she ran out, and there's a senior event tonight. So to those 3 board members and Mr. Markarian, I would like to thank you for taking the time to give her some reward for all the countless hours that she was here Monday nights and other times serving as a student representative. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Cody Smith, 36 Royal Oak Drive. I didn't see brew on the agenda either, but following up on that event, I did attend that event, and quite frankly, I came away with wondering what is going on in our school. All the students got up there and basically just complained about the stress culture and everything else going on. There wasn't much proposed as to how to fix that. I did go home and ask my high school senior. I said, man, your school is really screwed up. I didn't realize that it was that bad. And he laughed and said, well, half the kids are just on their phones all day and they don't care. But the other kids that are into this, it is messed up. And so I would just like to suggest that there's some kind of follow-up as to what to be done. I know the parents issue. We talk about it all the time. We try not to put that stress on our kids with the AP classes and getting into the best college. In fact, we don't want them to go to the best college, and pretty much they're on track to do that. But I would just suggest that you look at that and say, what really needs to be done? I think it is the parents, I think it is the school, I think it's everybody, but I didn't hear any solutions to that. So that's one thing. The second thing, I didn't follow the analogy about vanilla ice cream. It seemed to me that what some people want is for their student to stay at home and only learn that there's one flavor and it's vanilla. I would like to see that people come to school and learn that there's more than one flavor of vanilla. There's strawberry, chocolate, and a number of other flavors. And I think that was the whole discussion about the book, that it wasn't a balanced approach. It was a one-sided approach, and it was an unfair approach. I would like to see my children learn all of the different aspects of these issues, not just one that's painted by the book. And then on the agenda comment, it was nice that you provided a link to the wellness report, all 100 and some pages of it. I didn't get through the whole thing, but obviously you can't put out meeting minutes before a meeting actually occurs. So I think what we were talking about was the agenda. The agenda is getting better, but I think the agenda could still be improved by the policy changes and things like that, which I've emailed you before. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Anyone online? No? All right. Okay, public comment is closed. We're going to move on to approval of minutes. Can I have a motion? Mr. Salmon, Ms. Light? Any questions or comments on the minutes? Mr. Rollo?
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Ms. Light?
Yes.
Ms. Hira?
Yes.
Ms. McCune?
Yes.
Mr. Molinari?
Yes.
Mr. Amin?
Yes.
Ms. Chipak?
Yes.
And Mr. Rashio.
Okay, that's going to bring us to the Finance Committee report. There are 31 items under Finance tonight. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Light? Ms. McCune? I will read out the Finance Committee minutes from May 17th. Okay. We had a debt analysis and refinance briefing by Brian Morris, financial advisor from Phoenix Advisors, and Tony Solomine from Wellens, Goldman, and Spitzer. They're bond counsels. Mr. Morris provided a summary of the refunding opportunities. This includes 2013 bonds, which are now eligible for refinance. The district started this with 2012 bonds last year. The 2012 bonds were not refinanced due to market changes. Refinancing is not permitted to proceed unless the net present value savings are at least 3%. The amount eligible for refi is $8.785 million in the 2012 bonds and $16.75 million in the 2013 bonds. 3.6% net present value savings through refinance. This equals savings of about $140,000 per year from 2025 to 2030. No structural changes or debt extension involved with this. No out-of-pocket expenses. Final maturity on the 2013 bonds is 2028, and the 2012 bonds mature in 2030. Resolution for 522 to start the process of getting the refinance ready. Action will be subject to the movements of the market. 2012 bonds are already board authorized for refinancing. The 522 resolution would get the 2013 bonds authorized for refinancing. One board member asked if the 2012 authorization is good through perpetuity. It is, since it was done via ordinance, which means a board vote with a public hearing. The district is legally obligated to refinance when net present value savings are at or above 3%. Financial and legal advice is to move forward with the refinancing. If a decision is made to go into the market with these bonds, it is with confidence that the bonds will be sold. The new bonds would be non-callable due to their short duration. And the timeline in terms of paying off the district debt remains the same, 2029 to 2030. This proposal is to get everything teed up to move mid-June, middle of this month. By getting everything ready, the bonds will be ready to come to market quickly. No further board action will be required. Movement will be at the discretion of the administration, and the committee supports this recommendation. Second thing we talked about, New Jersey ARM and other investment options for cash balances. Talked about that with Zach O'Grady, a consultant. Let's see, we're currently looking for new finance options, and we talked to PFM Asset Management Investments, Zach O'Grady, and his colleague Marty Hammond. They exclusively work with institutional investors, including multiple local districts, discussed the New Jersey ARM program, approved the New Jersey SAE code. It's very safe. Rates are market driven. At present, the New Jersey ARM rate was 4.98%. PFM Management also has a fixed rate option, New Jersey term, where rates can be locked in for anywhere from 60 days to 1 year. They're not a broker-dealer. They are investment advisors. This is a cash management program. Another alternative could be a treasury account. New Jersey ARM, they compete with the New Jersey Cash Management Program that's operated by the state. A board member asked about funds insurance. GUPA eligibility does not apply to New Jersey ARM or to New Jersey Cash Management Program. No guarantees or insurance on funds. However, since 1981, they've never lost principal, but there is no guarantee. PFM is not a depository, it's an investment management. Same board member asked about PFM being owned by U.S. Bank and how that affects things considering current market volatility. The answer is that none of PFM's assets are on U.S. Bank's balance sheet, i.e. if U.S. Bank failed, it would not affect the program. There's no fees with PFM to access our funds. After the PFM representatives left, Mr. Rall gave an update on Wells Fargo. Our operating checking account currently sits at $28 million, looking at multiple options to prudently maximize the district's returns. Mr. Rall contacted Wells Fargo and negotiated our account. Wells Fargo took monthly fees from $4K to $3K a month. Wells Fargo is currently proposing a rate of 4.93%. Mr. Rall feels that services Wells Fargo provides are good. Fraud prevention, for example, positive pay. Ooh. We lost the bulb. Oh. Positive pay and wire services. Where am I? Okay, and automated remote deposit capabilities. He feels other options we are looking at should provide similar services, especially the positive pay. The committee discussed the risks versus benefits of keeping money in Wells versus smaller regional bank or cash managers. Mr. Rall is going to look at a couple others, Carney, Affinity, and several options for next meeting. 3, subscription busing fees. Current, $844 with no household cap. The district has historically mapped the fee to the state's aid in lieu of transportation amount, which is currently at $1,022. The recommendation is to increase the fee to $900, about a 5% increase for 2023 to 2024. The committee supports this recommendation. Facility use fees. Rates have not been raised since the 2019 to 2020 school year. One board member stated the fee category A, which is 3/4 of participants are Berners Township students or residents, nonprofit organizations, and participants not being solicited to pay future fees, nor is there a participation fee or admission fee for the event. These rates should not be raised. Other board members agreed. So that's category A. There would be no increase. For categories B, C, and D, there would be a 5% usage increase, and this would start in September. The committee supports this recommendation. Next up was the May 22nd finance agenda items. Okay, discussion was had regarding insurance, busing attorneys, authorization for using legacy firm, while also trying out new attorneys for new cases, for special ed cases, and out-of-district placements. Section of Cedar Hill roof is in need of repair. We have $20,000 for architect to provide assessment being added to the 522 agenda. Estimates are going to run for $500, $600K for the roof repair. Spiesel will do the specifications, resolution to draw from capital reserve. One board member asked if we can apply for a ROD grant for this, and the administration said it will try. Let's see, status update on payroll and business office software. Mr. Rallo checked with ADP to determine the viability and cost of outsourcing payroll. ADP concluded public school payrolls are difficult to implement and would have to charge $250,000 in order to outsource completely. What we have is working at about half the cost of ADP administration, what we have is working at about half the cost of ADP. Administration is very happy with the service. Mr. Vallo thinks it's a worthwhile exploration to look at our payroll, human resources, accounting software. He also feels that there are systems out there that may be more efficient, and he would like to bring in personnel from different departments to explore the options. There will be migration costs if the district moves to new software, but we would like to start exploring this option over the summer. Let's see, resolution with the municipality to pay the access driveway status update. Mr. Crute is sending an agreement for cost sharing to get the driveway done, 50-50 cost split with the town. Ancillary to this, one board member asked about the status of the shared services with the town for landscaping. This is still in the exploratory stage. The Aramark contract can be amended if this comes to fruition. Status update, the facilities asset inventory. This item is going to be a software demonstration from a vendor. Based on time constraints, the demo will be rescheduled to a facilities committee meeting. And the next finance committee meeting was scheduled for June 5th at 2:45. And those are the minutes.
Okay, so
Ms. Light?
the items on the agenda that we're voting on tonight, number 1 and 2 are standard items. Number 3 are approval of professional development expenses. Number 4 is to accept a donation from Liberty Corner PTO for a Gaga pit. Thank you, Liberty Corner PTO. Number 5 is the memorandum of agreement for our SLEO Class 3s, our law enforcements, to be approved by the board. My understanding is that that will be voted on by the Township Committee on the 27th of this month as well. Number 6 is an item to borrow lights and basically holding the district or the light supplier harmless. The number 7 is 7 and 8 and 9 is to authorize movement of funds into our reserve accounts. Number 10 relates to the shared service agreement that Mr. Molinari actually just referenced, related to paving the driveway between the Township Committee or the Township offices and the school district and Ridge High School. Number 11 is to engage the demographer to look at where we're headed with the school district and attendance. The number 12 is to authorize the contract with our energy negotiator. Number 13 is to authorize funds from our grant accounts. Number 14, sorry, my eyes are, is amending, is basically doing the same thing, reallocating funds. Numbers 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, let me see, through 31 are all special education out-of-district placements.
Any questions or comments on any of the items? Mr. Salmon.
So I asked at the Finance Committee meeting regarding the, it was reported out, and I think there might have been some confusion on this, was that the district's facilities maintenance, in particular the cutting and mowing operation, was incorporated into the town's bid specification. It didn't get incorporated. That's one idea of how we could potentially work with the town to get better purchasing power. I tried to get that into the minutes, but it was not permitted. But I just wanted to clear that up because it was publicly reported. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. White.
I'm not sure what you're saying. So are you, because I know at the previous meeting, I thought we were told that you didn't think that the shared services for landscaping was going to come to fruition. So I'm not quite sure between the two of you what's actually being said. Like, so Tim, can you just?
So as of right now, that we're exploring, we're taking the next step now that this road is done. We're exploring shared services with the Township Committee on how they can provide services related to maintenance and landscaping services related to that. We originally had discussed with the Township Committee the ability to do our field maintenance contracts, but they were unable to do so because of the timing that was required to be able to line the fields. It just wasn't something that they had the capability for. So I spoke with Mayor McNally the other day, and we are going to start moving forward the next opportunity for shared services to go forward with that shared services agreement. So that's the next step in the process.
So they are going to do this, you just haven't had a conversation yet? Is that? I just couldn't-
We are going to be working together to determine whether it's feasible.
Okay, and the other thing is, do we have a date? Like, are we sure that we've been talking about getting this road paved for, well, since last year, quite frankly? Do we have a date? Like, are we sure we're going to have it ready to go for September?
So from talking to Mr. McNally, that resolution should be approved by the Township Committee on the 27th of June at that board meeting. The memorandum of agreement specifically states that this paving will be done by August 31st.
Anybody else? Mr. Kuhn?
I had one question that didn't make it into the minutes also. Just basically, what was the rates at the the New Jersey Cash Management Fund versus the ones that we were talking about in these minutes?
I believe the results as of the last committee, which we'll report on in the next committee's finance meeting, I think that New Jersey Cash Management is 4.34%, if I believe is correct. But the information that was discussed at the 17th committee is a bit outdated, and we'll update you on the next finance committee meeting.
Cash management is a few points behind NJRM.
Right.
I think the last one is 5 or 6
Okay.
hundredths of a point.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, could you repeat that just yeah.
Sorry, my voice is starting to go. I think New Jersey Cash Management Fund trails the NJRM by about 0.05 points on the interest. One was in the high 4.9s and the other's in the low 4.9s.
And the Cash Management Fund is where the biggest chunk of our reserves is in right now, right?
Yes.
Of reserves,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
He said they're basically the same, plus or minus 0.05, right?
Talking loudly at each other is usually not a problem up here for some. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on the Finance Committee report or items? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Rollo.
Mr. Salmon,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Ms. Light,
Yes.
Ms. Hira,
Yes.
Ms. McCune,
Yes.
Mr. Molinari,
Yes.
Mr. Amin,
Yes.
Ms. Chipak,
Yes.
and Mr. Rashio.
Yes.
Okay, that moves us on to the Personnel Committee report. There are 37 items under Personnel. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Salmon, can I have a second? Ms. Hira. Personnel Committee report.
We just met Friday.
So nothing to report out on this time?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions or comments on any of the items under Personnel? Or Mr. Marcano, you have something? Okay, yeah, Mr. Syed.
Okay, yeah, so the Personnel Committee met on May 19th, and some of the items I can't report out on because they have to do with confidential staff information, but what I can report, the first item was related actually to a member of the public's question regarding staffing shifts, which is actually pretty common since I've been in this position. The reason a district can RIF, since that came up and we talked about it, is due to reasons of economy or enrollment, and so the district typically sees fluctuating enrollments and has for the last several years. So you would typically see RIF motions on an agenda, and we've had RIFs in the district for the last few years. When those RIFs occur, it's typically because you're not backfilling a retirement or resignation, or because you do have to go down. I can let folks know that nobody actually nobody's out of a job. We were able to offer positions to folks, or will offer positions to all folks who were affected, but most of the positions that were RIF'd were because of retirements and resignations. Talked about non-aligned contracts, which I can't discuss the details of. talked about vacant positions, and that's probably all I can discuss. Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Syed? Any further questions or comments on the personnel items?
I got a question, Keith.
Mr. Rasho.
The AP position at WAMS, I see Dana Romano, congratulations to her. Who is taking the athletic director role over? Remember, it was a split role that we approved? Who's actually taking that over?
So talking to Ms. Hudak about that now, I believe we've selected one of her current assistant principals, but it will be one of the other two sitting APs. I shared the job description with the Board of Ed today, but I can assure you it will be one of the other two. And I should be able to put that, Nick should be able to put that weekly notes on Friday.
So my other question is, so what is one of the other two assistant principals, what are they not going to do that the other assistant principal is going to, that a full-time assistant principal is going to do?
Well, it's really
taking on that other extra role.
That's correct, right. So it's really about shifting responsibilities, and the person that has that role is going to have a reduced role as an assistant principal. So that's the key. That you could see if you took a look at that job description.
It was thick.
It's lengthy. So it is a reduction for some of those AP responsibilities. So the shift will occur for those other two folks.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Light.
Can you publicly share who participated in the interview process for the APs?
No, per guidance from council, I'm not able to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Mr. Rollo.
Mr. Salmon.
Yes.
Ms. White.
Yes.
Ms. Light.
Yes.
Ms. Hira.
Yes.
Ms. McCune.
Yes.
Mr. Molinari.
Yes.
Mr. Amin.
Yes.
Ms. Chipak.
Yes.
And Mr. Rasho.
Yep.
Okay, that brings us to the Policy Committee. There's two items on the agenda. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. White, Mr. Salmon, is there a Policy Committee report?
Policy just met today. These are second reading, and then nothing's changed since the last time.
Anybody have any questions or comments on what's on the second reading? Mr. Kuhn.
Actually, I should respond because it relates to a question that was asked by the public before. This second reading on the committee policy does give the timeline for publishing the minutes of the committee meetings for the public. So that will be starting going forwards after this, now that we're doing the second reading. So in the timeline, then the public will get the committee minutes Friday, right, Nick? So that they'll have them ahead of time before the board meeting. So hopefully will satisfy the people that didn't have enough information to know what was on the agenda.
Any questions or comments?
I just have a question.
Yes.
Kind of directed this. I know there have been some other things we've been talking about in terms of policy. Do you want to, and committees, do you want that discussion now, or do you want me bringing it up at board forum?
Maybe wait till board forum,
Okay.
I guess, so we get through the other committee reports.
Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Rollo.
Mr. Salmon.
Yes.
Ms. White.
Yes.
Ms. Light.
Yes.
Ms. Hira.
Yes.
Ms. McCune.
Yes.
Mr. Molinari.
Yes.
Mr. Amin.
Yes.
Ms. Chipak.
Yes.
And Mr. Rasho.
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to Curriculum Committee. There is one item. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Salmon, Ms. McCune, is there a Curriculum Committee report?
Yes. Curriculum met on Friday, June 2nd. The first item relates to the board agenda item being approved. It's a French textbook. Ms. Stotler, the supervisor of world language for the district, reviewed the proposed textbook for French 1 at WAMS. The French program is growing, having more students now than the past several years. The recommended textbook, Entre Cultures, is from the same publisher as the recently approved textbook for Spanish 1. The committee supports the purchase of the recommended textbook. Separately, Ms. Stotler explained that a recommendation for purchase of a textbook for Spanish 2 is on hold for now. staff will revisit this need over the course of next year. Ms. Stadler also provided a review of the STAMP test, the Standards-Based Measurement of Proficiency Test, which is a 4-day exam given to 8th graders in Spanish, French, Latin, Italian, and sign language. The exam measures proficiency in reading, writing, speaking, and listening. The STAMP test has been administered throughout New Jersey since the mid-2000s as a way to measure language proficiency. Since the onset of the Seal of Biliteracy in 2008, it has gained more attention. Ridge High School has been administering the STAMP test as a way to earn the Seal of Biliteracy since 2018. For the first time this year, Ridge, like many other districts, paid for our level 1 and 8th grade students to take this test as a way to measure the effectiveness of our program to gain insight as to how all students arrive at level 2. At this point, it is not being used to determine placement. We hope that this will inspire more students to opt into taking the STAMP test again at the end of their junior year to earn the Seal of Biliteracy. The first discussion item was an update related to the Extended Summer Instructional Support Program. Ms. Fox explained that the administration and staff would like to run the Extended Summer Instructional Support Program for identified students in grades 1 through 5 this summer, which would additionally include some kindergarten students that would be invited based on principal recommendations. 286 students have been invited, which is all students receiving instructional support, around 230 students, and an additional 50 students that were not receiving instructional support but were recommended by staff and building administrators were invited. The program cost about $80,000 in the summer of 2022, which was for staff and instructional materials, and that supported 93 students. The instruction is limited to no more than 3 students per staff member. Remote and in-person options are available. Invites were sent through Genesis, as well as follow-up letters to parents of invited students from Ms. Fox and building principals. The proposal is to use ESSER 3 grant funds to pay for the program. The total cost will be based on parent responses. The committee supports this program. The next item was the Tutor.com pilot tutoring program. The proposal is to run a pilot program at Ridge using Tutor.com. Tutor.com is a platform associated with Princeton Review and is being used by many school districts in New Jersey. Students are doing homework later in the evening after extracurriculars, and teachers may not be available to answer questions in real time. On the Tutor.com platform, a student would make a help request, e.g. through, for example, through a text chat app or by uploading a picture of a question or submitting a writing document for editing. Within 1 to 2 minutes, the student would receive a response and initiate a text or audio-based chat with a tutor. Alternatively, the student can schedule a tutoring session. After the session, the tutor makes a report about whether the student understood the material. If the student did not understand, the student's teacher is provided with a report. Some other notes about the platform: there is no video feature available, but there is a virtual whiteboard. No last names are used. All sessions are recorded and saved for post-session access. All tutors are vetted by the company, and there are Spanish-speaking tutors. There will be a presentation in the fall for students who can try the program during the school day with staff. The pilot program will enroll students in INRS with 504 plans and English language learners. If the pilot is successful, the program could be expanded to a broader population. For the pilot program, the proposal is to purchase 300 hours of tutoring time using CEIS grant money, which is part of the IDEA grant. The committee supports this program. Ms. Fox provided an update on NJSLA refusals. NJSLA is the successor version of PARCC testing. There was a history in the district of parents refusing to allow their students to sit for PARCC testing. There has not been the same refusal for NJSLA testing, which began in 2018-19. NJSLA testing is administered in ELA and math for grades 3 through 9 and in science for grades 5, 8, and 11. NJSLA is required to be administered in a time window provided by the state, but it is not a graduation requirement. NJGPA, however, is a test administered to juniors over 1 week in March, and it is a graduation requirement. NJSLA testing was suspended during COVID, but resumed in the spring of 2022. There were very few refusals at that time. However, this spring, approximately half the junior class refused to take the NJSLA science exam. There were 226 refusals out of 435 eligible students. Most, if not all, of the refusals came in the week of and during the administration of the exam. The other schools in the district had very few refusals. A quote-unquote refusal is defined as a student who does not sit for the first administration of the exam and fails to take the makeup exam. Regardless of the scores on the 11th grade science exam, the low participation rate will be reflected on the Ridge Performance Report, which is a document published by the New Jersey Department of Education. Private ranking services use the school performance report to compare and rank districts. This was just an unrelated note, but I thought it was important to note on the subject of the school performance report and how that's used by private companies to rank school districts. CBAP students who stay in district past 18, as they are legally permitted to do, are deemed non-graduating students in the school performance report. For example, a CBAP student that is in the senior class this year, but stays in the district next year, as they are legally allowed to do till age 21, counts towards the total number of students in the senior class, but is not deemed to have graduated. Also, this student is not added back into the class count when he or she leaves the district. This artificially reduces Ridge's graduation rate. For example, if there are 4 CBAP students in the senior class this year of 400 students who choose to stay in the district past senior year, Ridge's graduation rate on the school performance report will be reduced by 1% for this year, and it will not be corrected when those 4 students leave the district in later years. The next item for discussion was a curriculum mandate update related to the new tick-borne illness law. Ms. Fox explained that there is already a Lyme disease mandate. The initial draft of this new tick-borne illness law required nurses to remove ticks from students. However, that requirement was removed, and the enacted law simply adds to the list of diseases that can be contracted from ticks. In terms of discussion items, the first discussion item was a presentation of Part 3 of the post-secondary report. Part 1, college applications and admissions, was reviewed in the Wellness Committee. Part 2, SATs and ACTs, was reviewed during the May 5th, 2023 Curriculum Committee meeting. Part 3, relating to AP course enrollment and scores, was reviewed. The full report is linked. One interesting note is that the participation rate, the percentage of students enrolled in the course and taking the exam, had been 90% until 2021, when it dropped to 80% for the last year and this year. The next item was an update from the Berners Technology School District Technology Committee, the plan for 2022 to 2025. The Technology Committee includes Ms. Fox, Mr. Miziak, who is the Supervisor of Science, Mr. Blinder, who is the District Head of IT, special education staff, and building representatives, including teachers and other administrators. Staff and students were surveyed with questions related to Goal 1, which was to meet the operational and instructional needs of the district while maximizing resources, including budget and personnel, in order to increase efficiencies and improve student outcomes, and Goal 4, which was to enhance communication and collaboration with all stakeholders and seek ongoing input from stakeholders on technology plan implementation. The report provides a summary of the survey responses from staff in the areas of instructional use, for example, how often Chromebooks are used during instruction, instructional resources, for example, online and offline use, logistics, for example, students remembering to bring Chromebooks to school, bringing them charged, etc. Classroom management use, for example, Hapara, classroom management software. The report provides a summary of the survey responses from student areas of use at school, for example, by frequency, by subject area, use at home, and reported issues as to why students borrow Chromebooks at school. As to the use of Chromebooks in grades K through 2, Ms. Vitale explained that digital tools are used to create targeted learning plans for students to reinforce classroom instruction. Data from PASI, DIBELS, and PSI assessments are used to create phonics review lessons. In mathematics, assessments on the IXL platform can be used to create targeted review lessons. One board member asked how teachers are using these digital resources and the results of the review lessons. Ms. Vitale explained that if the results indicate that the student is struggling or unclear about whether the student has understood the concepts, the teacher can do small group and/or individual instruction or refer for an intervention. The next item was discussion around the sociology textbook. As reported from the May 5th, 2023 Curriculum Committee meeting, Ms. Fox explained that there are 2 options for the sociology course after the purchase of one of the proposed textbooks. The Real World was rejected by a majority of the board. The options are: number 1, revisit the Schaefer book, which is Sociology, A Brief Introduction, High School Edition by McGraw-Hill, that was initially selected by the teachers and students, and gather any concerns from board members and or the public to address by teachers through curriculum writing. Or option 2 is to use the current textbook and supplemental materials, which will be identified through curriculum writing during the summer. Another considered option was to purchase the updated version of the current textbook, but when reviewing the updated version, the staff felt it suffered from the same problems as the book currently being used. For example, it's dry, inaccessible, especially since there's no in-class support for this class, and didn't provide updated information or topics. The teachers are still interested in using the Schaefer book as was their first choice. The current textbook, which is by Henslin, it's called Sociology, A Down-to-Earth Approach by Pearson, has a copyright date of 2012. Since this book is more than a decade old, the teachers would use supplemental materials as they have previously. For example, the course includes a unit on the decline in religious participation. The book provides data from 2005 to 2012. The teachers refer to the textbook to introduce the topic, but use supplemental materials to provide updated data and current discourse on the subject. The board will discuss this topic at the June 12th, 2023 meeting to provide the staff with direction for summer curriculum writing. There are 4 semester sections planned for the 23-24 school year. The final item was related to the health curriculum and the board resolution to explore all possible ways to deliver the instruction related to the 2020 health standards. Ms. Fox provided an update on the student opt-out numbers. There are 42 students who have opted out of at least one lesson. 5 of those students opted out of lessons that have nothing to do with family life or sexuality. Ms. Fox provided an update on the preliminary survey response numbers for the health and the health survey. There have been 384 parent survey responses and 271 community survey responses. These are not unique families because one family could fill out multiple surveys and all the community surveys are open to anyone. The next steps were discussed. A majority of the board voted to direct the curriculum committee to explore all potential ways to deliver instruction related to the 2020 health standards. A majority of the board provided a list of 12 of the 2020 health standards that it deemed objectionable. The committee has heard from teachers about the units and lessons related to these 12 standards, which resources are used in the classroom, the accessibility of such resources for parents, and the notice provided to parents about health instruction, which was reported with the May 5th, 2023 Curriculum Committee meeting minutes. The committee has also formulated the parent and community surveys related to the 2020 health standards, the units and lessons, and the associated classroom materials, and the opt-out process. The surveys will close on June 30th, 2023. The committee agreed that the survey results would not be interpreted as a vote, but could be used to inform the list of 12 standards identified by a majority of the board and the opt-out process. Based on the work that has been done to date, the committee discussed the possible ways to deliver instruction related to these 12 standards. One board member suggested that for grades K through 7, accepting 8th grade for the moment, the teachers could provide parents, the teachers could possibly provide parents with an outline of the course in the beginning of the year, and then during the year, provide parents with a notice of an upcoming unit and the associated lessons, and in that notice, the teacher could specify that the lesson associated with an objectionable standard will be taught on a specific day. The board can have a follow-up discussion at the June 12, 2023 board meeting to narrow the quote-unquote all potential ways to deliver these lessons. The next curriculum committee meeting will be July 20th at 9 a.m. That's it.
Okay, questions or comments?
I have a question. Keith?
Oh, yep.
Oh, sorry. Anybody else? So, wait, so 50% of the junior class opted out of this test?
Yes.
What catalyst? Why low percentage last year and then 50% this year? Like, is there any reason? It just seems like a lot.
Well, there's several reasons we discussed potentially. You know, the emails started flooding in that week. Parent emails, the policy is for the parents to write an email to the principal stating the refusal. Some of the reasons listed by parents was that their students had been participated in the NJ GPA assessment in March for a week, 2 weeks of AP testing the first 2 weeks of May, and that they just needed a break. That was a reason cited by many parents, probably most.
And it's not required for graduation.
And
So they're
while
exhausted.
asking, they asked,
So are
does
there
it
timing?
count?
Is there different timing?
The state tells us when you have to administer the
No,
test.
the state gives a window.
Yeah.
This year it was the month of May. So the first 2 weeks are AP testing. You can't do it then, and so we did it, you know, in the last 2 weeks. So next year, we'll have to see when the window is, and we try to maximize, you know, where we place it for all the grades.
Makes sense.
Ms. Light.
I like the idea of the tutor.com since several, you know, multiple community members have said that they need tutoring services, so I like the idea. I just have 2 questions about it. So I know that these tutors are vetted. When they are text or audio-based chat with the tutor, does the tutor have visibility into their phone number?
No.
Okay. And then the second.
And also, just so you know, we get a recording of the meeting, both in the text of the meeting or the audio recording.
So
that
there's
can
no
be
way for
reviewed.
the tutor to reach out and call our students separately
No.
from the, okay. The second one that I wanted to ask is, you know, we're proposing to purchase 300 hours for the I guess the pilot, so to speak, but we're using grant money. So what is the idea, first of all, how much does that cost? And what is the idea for funding going forward beyond that grant?
So the current pilot program is targeted for students in our, who are already receiving interventions, and they've been identified, so this is additional support for that population. The cost for the 300 hours is approximately $12,000, and that is a grant specifically where we have to use it for that population of students. We're required to. So when we kind of evaluate the pilot and how it's going, part of that will be on how heavy the usage is and whether it's something the budget could support for a larger population of students.
Okay. Thank you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, with the privacy concerns, there's no video back and forth, right?
No video
Yeah,
option at all.
Yep, that's what I thought.
May I? Ms. Fox, would you be so kind and explain to the audience what is going to be the outcome? So many students opting out from the NJSLA.
You mean the potential repercussions
For
for the
it- for the
district?
school-
Sure.
correct.
So like the parents asked whether it was required and there was any, it counted for the students. And the answer is that for the individual student, it's not required for graduation. So there is no consequence for an individual student. But it is something that would appear on our CUSAC monitoring score potentially, as well as the performance reports published by the state of New Jersey. And as mentioned, those are used by private institutions for the ranking system. So it can be, by some organizations, it can factor into our rankings.
And I would say also, we don't know who took the test, right? So the scores will not reflect the entirety of the student body. So it could be high achievers, it could be, kids that didn't take the, weren't, what's that? Yeah, right. So like, the score will not reflect really, there will be no information based on the score, but it will be reflected in the school performance report.
Students who took it will obviously get a score report, and so we'll know how they did individually on the science assessment. But as a reflection of our performance of the junior class on the science assessment, it won't be particularly valid.
Mr. Mead.
So just following up on that, the one thing that'll be interesting to note is that even though this is a statewide requirement, there's similar students in other districts also taking AP exams, what level of participation they had, and if theirs wasn't as bad as 50%, what they are doing differently, or why Basking Ridge 11th graders were singularly opting out.
Correct. So when I report out on the assessment results in the fall, that will be some pieces of information we'll start to gather as other districts post the same information.
Mr. Kuhn.
I actually did a paper on the opt-outs when we had Park. I would assume that it's related to the number of opt-outs we had back then, because a lot of the same people still live in town and they know that opting out is an option. So we had a very, very high opt-out rate during the Park testing compared to most districts. There were other districts like ours too, but a lot of it was just generated by parent movements on social media and stuff like that. So it did affect our rankings then. So I can only assume, that it's got a lot of the same factors of why our town may have had more than other towns.
Ms. White.
People who know me know I go back to the days of Park, and I've always been a big proponent of parents' right to make this decision. To me, this is no different than if you don't want your child taking health class. It is your right as a parent to opt out. So while I'm happy to see the data of other districts, to me, it really isn't relevant to us here, because unless the state is requiring the students to take this test as a graduation requirement, I would certainly always protect the right of any parent to make the decision for their child to take this test, and I fully understand that it can affect ranking. But I also think you can't say that you are a proponent of parents' choice, but only when it is something that fits your own narrative. So I just want to be very clear on the fact that going forward, I think we will always have parents who refuse the test, and it's not simply because of the timing. I do think this particular test coming after the graduation test that they had and then the APs doesn't help. But the real crux of the matter is, for the most part, parents are refusing this test because they feel that their children are over-tested, and I support that feeling.
Any other comments? Mr. Salmon.
I have two things. So the first thing is on the health curriculum. So like I reported out and like we discussed in the committee, we're kind of, but for the survey results, we're sort of at the end of this kind of like review process with these 12 standards. We heard from the teachers, we've seen the materials. I think, they will be doing curriculum writing this summer. I think, it would be a good idea for us to try to narrow down or give the staff some direction as to where we're going here. like, you know, we've talked about all potential ways to deliver it. That's a pretty broad discussion. So now we're kind of at the point where we've heard about everything. So what are we thinking here? Like, we had an idea floated at the committee meeting. That sounds fairly reasonable to me, to kind of put that on the top of the list as to how to pursue, maybe going forward. But I'd like to hear other members of the board weigh in here, because we're getting to the summer. So summer curriculum writing is going to happen in the summer.
Mr. Kuhn.
I mean, I think it makes sense to take whatever feedback from the survey and from what we've heard this year to streamline and make the opt-out process as simple as possible for people, that want to opt out or want to figure out whether they're interested in opting out. I think I'm still a bit confused as to, I guess, if the parent survey shows a particular lessons or standards that many people had, concern about, then looking at the sequence in that grade, to see, is there a way to be either more clear about when it's going to be taught, or consolidate into a shorter block of time, if you know what I mean, so that instead of opting out a couple different times, they can just opt out for a couple days and be done with it. So I think that makes sense. I think that's what you were kind of saying before, but I don't really know, other than that, what anyone else is thinking.
Mr. Amin.
I would agree with Robin. I think consolidating the new standards so that it's over a shorter period of time, and if that means breaking up the topic from what was being taught, I think that's okay. And making the opt-out process even simpler, and just letting parents know it'll be taught on this date, and let them choose to whether have their student participate or opt out. And I would also suggest, when the student is opting out, that there's an alternative for them to do something that's productive. They're not just sitting idly wasting time, whether it's catching up on other work, getting tutoring, whatever it is to help them out with other areas.
So I'll just add, there are alternative lessons. So students that opt out now do have like an alternative lesson that's already kind of pre-made for them, which is designed. There's some, one is like how to be a good consumer and things like that.
There's actually one for every lesson.
Yeah, so like that was one of the examples, like if a student opted out. In terms of the consolidation, we did talk about like a specific day. There was, some of the teachers did mention that sometimes a lesson gets cut over 1 or 2 days, particularly at the middle school, and at the elementary schools. It could be that the teacher says, like they're doing now, like, we're coming up on this unit. This week we will be talking about, the brain or the skin or something like that. And here's the lessons that will be in this unit. Here's the 4 lessons for this week. And then for the one standard that was identified in grade 2, the idea was to tell the parents a specific day, which we could do, but obviously build in some flexibility, because if there's a fire drill one day or something happens, it might not be that specific day, but the parent will know that it's coming that week, barring anything unforeseen. So they will know that the student will be opted out for a lesson, for a 150-minute block in elementary that week.
Yeah, I think that's fine, again, as long as it's one block, right, and minimizing what the student is otherwise missing, so they're not missing.
They're missing one lesson, that's it, 1 50-minute block, that's it, in elementary.
And I would say minimizing that lesson, right, unless that whole 50 minutes was on that 2020 new standard, that they should still be receiving what was being taught prior to 2020.
Yeah.
So, and then to your earlier point about there's alternative lessons, I thought they go to the principal's office or they sit in some other room.
Yeah, but they don't, they have to get instruction during that time, so they just get instruction on like a different but somewhat related topic that's pre-made. So they don't just go and sit and stare at the wall. Like they have another topic that they do, and they go to whatever, sometimes a principal's office or wherever there's space for one child.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with Robin on this one. Consolidation is the answer. I mean, we just saw it with this test that people opted out of. If they have specific times which they're going to opt out, and it's consolidated, it's easy to opt out. I think that's the only answer.
And I would also just add that this doesn't preclude any parent from opting out of anything else, right? So like
100%, yeah.
this kind of like delineated opt-out is just tied to these 12 standards. It's not Any parent can opt out of any of the health curriculum as they see fit.
And I would just add to that, not just these 12 standards, but the new requirements related to these 12 standards, right? So the standards are topics from what I understand, but there were new things that were required to be taught for those topics. It's again, I'm trying to minimize students needing to miss out on what was being taught prior to 2020 for those topics, for those standards.
Ms. White.
Two things. I think there's still confusion from the standards in the curriculum. So, and if there's still confusion here, you can only imagine the confusion out there. So that still is something that I think that we need to do a better job of making clear. And I think we really talked, had a very productive conversation in curriculum, and I think we left there pretty much on the same page in terms of saying that using the summer for the curriculum writing and taking feedback from the surveys would be very, very helpful. But the other thing that was really helpful was from the meeting before, when we had teachers come and they talked to all of us about what actually takes place, what the lesson actually is versus what the standard is. Reading aloud perhaps one sentence, which may be the sentence that people are objecting to versus what's written in the standard. And I just want to be clear, the standards give us they tell, what certain things are, the expectation will be covered by a certain grade band. But within that we have the ability to say, we are going to teach this standard, but perhaps we will omit a word that we don't feel our students are ready for. But that doesn't mean that we're not covering that standard in the curriculum. But what I would think would be really helpful, in addition to making it easier, is a lot of that information that the teachers shared with us in the document that we got, it really, really made it very clear. And it might be helpful for parents after the curriculum writing is done and in the fall, when they're being presented with the information of this is coming up, and if this is something that you want to opt out on, here's how. If you want more details, providing that information, because it was so clear when the teachers shared that. I think we all walked away feeling much better about, oh, you're not doing that? But I heard in the community say that you're doing this. And then the teacher's like, no, we don't do that at all. I can't speak for what other districts do, but in our district, in this grade level, this is what we're doing. So it all has to do with our communication and our transparency, but it's not about eliminating anything. It's just making it clearer to parents what actually is taking place versus what is not. And they were also very clear that, currently they send the letters home about the opting out to explain that process and streamline that process. I think we all agreed about that. So I think we all started out kind of here on this topic, and I think during the course of the year it may not have moved as fast as people wanted, but I think that we've gotten closer to finding something that is palatable and appropriate.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I think it was a productive meeting, and I think where we're potentially landing is a good place. It was never about removing standards or not teaching what was required, but I think by consolidating and streamlining when it's taught to make the opt-out process easier so kids don't have to miss multiple lessons. And it was encouraging too, because the teachers were very upfront. Everything that they're showing in class as far as materials is available online. Let's have that online for students at the beginning of the year, for students and for parents at the beginning of the year, so parents can see the materials that are being taught. They know when the lessons are coming, and the opt-out form is easier. I think that's a good place to land.
Does anybody have any other all potential ways that, because I think this is kind of, it sounds like we have a consensus and where this is the direction we want to head, okay? All right, great. Okay, so my second topic that I wanted to raise is about the Schaefer sociology textbook. So this is the one that the staff and students proposed first. It was their preferred choice because they were looking for a high school level book, and it was a high school level book, which seemed to be few and far between in the sociology world. It's published by McGraw-Hill. We did have two concerns raised by board members at the committee. The administration addressed those or responded to those. Whether you believe they're addressed or not is up to you. But it's sort of the same process that we went through. I feel like with the ethics textbooks, there was some, not concerns, but ideas raised about, how to address certain things. So I feel like we're in basically the exact same position. So I, would like to get some feedback on whether we could, approve that book and then move forward with that textbook for the sociology class.
Ms. Light.
So Kristen was nice enough to share with us some of the school districts and what they're using, and I had the opportunity to at least look at the first chapter of the book that Princeton was using on Kendall. I tried to look up the Thomas book in Montgomery, but wasn't able to get that before we came to the meeting. Have we actually evaluated either of those two books?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
I don't have the notes on those other books, but I could certainly get them.
Yeah,
They were
because-
eliminated fairly early on in the process.
Okay, because when I was looking at the first chapter of the Kendall book, and again, I don't have access to the entire
It
book.
most likely had to do with the fact that it wasn't high school level, because if you remember, that was our primary goal at the outset. So I know in the first round, that book didn't make the initial cut. So I can certainly,
Yeah,
revisit that.
I'd like to do that
notes.
because looking at that first chapter, it seemed more scientifically balanced.
So the Kendall book, if I could just jump in for a second, on the textbook recommendation form that the administration submits when they're going to propose a new textbook, Diana Kendall, Sociology in Our Times. So the textbook is this is what the administration wrote in the textbook review form. Textbook is very similar to current book in use. Content feels very out of date, provides some useful assessment and critical thinking questions. So it was considered, but I guess Schaefer went out.
And was the Thomas, do you have the notes on the Thomas book?
Thomas, I don't see.
Sociology, the study of human relationships.
I don't recall looking at the Thomas book.
No, I don't have that.
I'd have to check. with
Who's
the
using that?
team.
Montgomery.
Oh, okay.
In addition, from the evaluation you gave, you mentioned that Milburn doesn't, we're constantly looking at Milburn because they are higher ranked than us from an educational perspective. And it says that they're actually not using a textbook and they're just dealing with supplemental materials. Do we have any insight as to, on that and what supplemental materials they're using and how they're crafting that?
No, just that a number of districts do not have an approved adopted textbook. In Milburn's case in particular, their curriculum is not online like ours is, so it would require a lot more communication to get some of that insight. But certainly those are the kinds of things that the teachers are doing all the time, right? Collaborating with their peers here in their other networks on, the top resources to use. So even with the current book that we have, they're supplementing with resources frequently. So that's not uncommon. And obviously very common in other districts. But no, we don't have that.
So what is the problem if the Kendall book is something that we could all agree was balanced, what is the problem with then supplementing that with material that's a little more accessible?
If you go back to the original presentation that was made, we were looking for a book that would better fit our population. And the course is composed year after year of a more differentiated or disparate group of learners. That may not be the case in other districts. I don't know what their criteria is for the course and so forth. But for us, that's been a growing problem with having accessible materials. And while also the materials are outdated and inaccessible, they were particularly looking for a book that would be engaging and easier for the teacher to use with lower level learners as well as honors level learners who are in the same class. So they were looking for a particular book. That doesn't mean that Kendall might not be a book that could at some point in time be used. It wasn't what they were looking for though. So certainly when we went back to the drawing board after the first time when we talked about it in committee, we revisited all of the books again, right? And so the conclusion at that point still led us to a book that you eventually voted on, The Real World, right? Because they felt that was second to Schaefer, but engaging, up to date, had activities that would meet a variety of needs of learners within this room that is becoming increasingly difficult to, meet their needs.
Thank you.
Ms. McEwen.
So I'm thinking more about the Schaefer book, which I looked at in a couple more times. I reached out to some of my old sociology professors and some of my friends who now teach from a grad school that teach sociology around the country. And I actually found out that a couple people that I know were on this this committee of the American Sociological Association that made the national standards for the high school sociology. So like it's the standards, it's a little bit different. They were trying to make it like the equivalent of, you know, there's an AP psychology course. There's no AP sociology course, but they were trying to get standards that were kind of the entire field, you know, to give an overview, but at the high school level. So they kind of had this big committee that worked on it. And so this book, the Schaefer book, is aligned with those standards. So it is specifically, you know, geared towards high school students. So I got a big earful about it, and they had positive things to say about it. So I would like to make a motion that we reconsider the Schaefer book, because it was the first choice of the committee, and there was, as far as I can tell, you know, I couldn't find any of the things that people objected to in the second book in the Schaefer book when I looked. So unless there's specific objections that weren't voiced, I don't really know why we can't just go with that book.
Can we have the opportunity to reevaluate that book before we make any kind of votes on that? Do we still have access?
Sure, we can, you still have the digital access that the board was provided with, and we still have copies in the board office for you to review.
I'd like to read it before making any decisions on it.
Yeah, we can resend out the digital access to you, no problem.
That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Ms. White.
Couple things. One, we've all had months and months and months and months and months and months and months to look at that book. So I would say if you want to delay it, we are having a meeting on May 22nd. I think that we need to move, June 22nd. I think we need to move forward and make a decision, because if we want a textbook for these kids for September, you need to be able to put the order in. That's number one. Number two, I would like to know, I know we had a couple board members who did put initial questions that you answered. If anybody else submitted in these months and months and months any questions or concerns?
No.
Okay, so that's my second thing. My third thing is, going back to, this was the first choice that the teachers wanted, and I recognize that there may be a chapter or two chapters that people have questions or concerns about. But do we even know, because it's a one-semester course, but the book is not created for one semester. So what exactly are the topics that are covered in the course, number one? Number two, for those identified topics where you might think maybe it's biased more one way towards the other, is there a way for us to be provided with the information? Well, what is the lesson? Because maybe for that particular chapter, the lesson is, I want you all to go and research this topic and come back with 3 other sources that provide us with different perspectives. So I would assume that teachers, since they know exactly how to challenge and charge our students with tasks, that knowing the identified concerns would look at this material and look at the curriculum and the lessons and anticipate that, so that we can move forward and have a textbook, because I don't think anybody wants just supplemental materials, because quite frankly, then we're going to want to see every single supplemental material. And, you know, when you have, let's say, 10 chapters or 6 chapters of supplemental materials and you're showing it to the board, you're not going to all agree on all the supplemental material. And so then we're going to get to, how are we even going to be teaching this course? So I would like to propose that anybody look at the textbook by our next meeting, and we move forward and take a vote on this once and for all.
I have no
I agree with
objection.
that.
I have no objection
I
to
agree with
that.
that. Yep.
Ms. Chipak, do you have something?
Yes, I actually wanted to ask the board attorney, what happens if no new book presented that the board can agree on? What happens? Yes.
The majority rules. So if a majority does not agree on a textbook, you stick with the same textbook that you presently have. So I think that, you know, what you're talking about here is looking at this book, the Schaefer book, studying it, seeing if that will suffice, seeing if the objectionable chapters don't need to be covered. Those are things you guys can discuss and answer at your next meeting. But if the majority of the board doesn't support it, you can't purchase the book.
Can I say something to what you both just said? But so this curriculum hasn't been revised since 2009, and one of the pieces of this work in the selection of the textbook was then to engage in some, major curriculum revision this summer to reflect a lot of things that have happened since 2009. One being the switch to rotate and drop, where through the transition to rotate and drop, we revised most of our, all of our required courses to reflect a shift in the timeline in all of the courses. But in a lot of electives, that wasn't, the priority, going right into rotate and drop. So that was slated to be a big part of the work. So when you look in the current curriculum right now, there are 9 units. And that would really, we discussed it, probably be more like a full year course. And they're really currently, since coming out of COVID and switching to the rotate and drop, teaching 4 to 5 units. So they've already done some of the condensing. And so if you align it to the book, which has 16 chapters, we would be utilizing the pieces that align to those 4 units that will be designed. And so they are Introduction to Sociology, Social Stratification and Inequality, Social Institutions, Deviance, Crime, and Social Control. Those are the 4 units. When you look in the curriculum now, there are 9 units. So that would be a lot of the work. That would be the work we would do this summer, which would also include what you were talking about, like in the approaches to some of the topics. If you were to share with us what your concerns were, we could incorporate some of that into, the curriculum that we design. So I think that's an important point, right? If you look at the 16 chapters, we may only use pieces of many of the chapters and not at all some of the other chapters that don't align with the 4 units that I just listed. So like I was going to say, you're welcome to look at the book. I'm happy to sit with any of you and sort of align it to the units that we were planning to revise as well.
Any other comments or questions?
So are we're gonna vote on it next time then? We're gonna, because I agree, we have to do this before the summer. They're gonna write the curriculum in the summer.
Everybody good with that?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
All right.
So also, like, we have the physical book in the board office, and then we have online access.
I'll email you everyone the email, the
Right.
digital access.
So it would be good, like, if you have questions or whatever, to get them out as soon as possible so that Mr. Terry and the staff that recommended the book can look at your concerns before we vote, so everybody has all the information all at once.
Anything else for curriculum? But we do have one item to vote on, and we already have motions, so Mr. Vollo.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Ms. Light?
Yes.
Ms. Hira? Ms. McCune?
Yes.
Mr. Molinari?
Yes.
Mr. Amin?
Yes.
Ms. Chipak?
Yes.
And Mr. Rauschio?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to wellness. There's no items. Is there a report?
Oh, yes. Relax and sit back. Okay, first we started with the Trends in Mental Health report, which started with the update on counseling visit data. The presentation included information based on individual meetings students have had with counselors as opposed to group sessions. In prior years, individual visits have been tracked at WAMS and Ridge. This year, Ms. Smith asked that the elementary schools track the individual student meetings at each school as well. The collection of this data is in alignment with our Ask a National model. New this year is an extra counselor who splits her days at all the elementary schools, in addition to each school having its own counselor. About 15% of what an elementary counselor does is individual meetings with students. This year, all elementary schools combined had 957 students who had individual meetings that totaled 2,042 visits, with fourth grade students requiring the most visits. Interestingly, last year, fourth graders were the group that needed extra support as well. January and February saw a spike in visits, which raised the question of why that might be the case, and Ms. Smith will be looking into this for us. There are a number of reasons students are visiting counselors, such as academic, mental health, developmental, social issues, school refusal, the largest category being 62% developmental or social issues. Mental health reasons vary from anxiety, depression, grief, loss, to family changes. There are also 85 small group counseling groups run throughout the year, averaging about 21 groups per school with 6 children. 510 students participated in small group counseling this year. Counselors also deliver roughly 5 lessons to each class or grade level, with 451 total counseling lessons delivered across all 4 elementary schools. We were provided with some anecdotal takeaways. There's a higher number of younger students, K through 2, exhibiting symptoms of anxiety, worry, and stress. In comparison to previous school years, there was a significant increase in behavioral and emotional concerns amongst the student population. Students have been struggling to manage peer conflicts and are having difficulty utilizing the appropriate skills to resolve conflicts. Lack of ability for many of the students to regulate their emotions and express themselves to their peers, difficulty with social interactions as well. Students at the younger ages are having difficulty initiating and building upon peer relationships in a positive way. There's an increase in socialization occurring over iPads, cell phones, online gaming, and social media. Parents are reporting how extremely difficult it is to find a community counselor. In terms of positive mental health trends, students are seeking counseling support from the school counselor and also informing parents and teachers when issues arise. Many students utilize classroom cope kits that contain various calm down tools and sensory items. And for those of you who don't know, last year the cope kits were put together. They have all sorts of little gadgets that kids can use when they feel anxious. A positive trend in mental health to note includes students' resilience and ability to maintain motivation, and students are generally responsive to interventions. Next, data related to WAMS was presented. The looping model, which Mrs. Hudak instituted in 2020, has been extremely helpful in gathering this data. This year, 1,066 individual students visited a counselor, up from 722 last year. There were 3,240 visits in total, up from 1,902 in 2022. Visits do tend to increase towards the end of marking periods. At WAMS, most of the visits are general ed students. As at the elementary level, there are many different reasons students are seeking out counselors, such as academic, mental health, developmental social issues, behavior, HIB, and groups. Mental health factors are symptoms of anxiety, symptoms of depression, school refusal, and crisis, and some students were seen for multiple reasons. Signs of anxiety are the greatest reason for visits. There have been 358 SAC referrals this year that resulted in 8 emergency placements and evaluations. And anecdotal takeaways for William Annan are that students exhibiting lack of conflict resolution skills without an adult. They're overscheduled students and activities. There's a rise in conflicts among peers and students learning mediation and how to resolve issues between friends. Lack of empathy and conflict resolution skills, and as a result, we've seen a rise in HIB investigations and violence prevention reports. A positive trend seen was the increase in student self-referrals. More students this year reached out either in person or via email regarding meeting to discuss concerns they were experiencing. And students understanding the importance in talking to an adult when something is wrong. Students are becoming more empathetic and patient towards students that they can tell are different from them. Students exhibiting lack of conflict resolution skills without an adult is rising. Overscheduling of student activities, rise in conflicts in how to resolve issues. Students are becoming more empathetic and patient towards students. And then at Ridge, students are assigned to a specific guidance counselor for all 4 years. In addition, there are 2 SACs at Ridge who work with less students but see them with greater frequency. This year, there were 1,540 individual students who totaled 5,021 visits, with the majority of visits from 12th graders this year, as opposed to 9th graders last year. The majority of students are in Gen Ed. Visits also tend to spike around the end of marking periods like at WAMS. Direct services are for social developmental issues, substance abuse, crisis, mental health, post-secondary, and academic. This year, 378 students visited for reasons related to mental health, 15 for substance abuse, 10 for combined substance abuse and mental health, and 355 for social developmental facts. Some students may visit a counselor for multiple reasons. Anxiety and depression remain the greatest reason for visits. There has been an increase from last year to this year to emergency psychiatric screenings from 10 to 26, from psychiatric IOPs from 8 to 13, and psychiatric hospitalizations from 5 to 19. At last month's meeting, we discussed home instruction and reported that most students receiving this are Ridge students. And some anecdotal takeaways were that students exhibiting lack of conflict resolution skills without an adult, as is seen in other years. They too were overscheduled in activities. They are seeing the positive trend for self-referrals, and they too are becoming more empathetic and patient towards their peers. Then we had, from each individual school who we hadn't heard about yet, social emotional learning update, beginning with Cedar Hill. During the summer, there was one day of staff college devoted to character education development for the school year. Some of the initiatives this year have been monthly green and gold assemblies, buddy classes, kindness week, character challenges of the month for students to try related to traits of the month. For example, patience was recently a theme of the month, and the challenge was to remain patient when a friend wanted to play a different game. Developing common language, school-wide vocabulary was also prioritized. An inspirational thought starts each day and is on the entry board as students enter the building. Student leadership opportunities continue to be provided with student council, student greeters for school events, character crusaders leading assemblies. In addition, community building activities such as Family Fun Night and the Color Run have taken place, and there's been a focus on building empathy and community as a result of increased impulsive behavior, and as a result, there has been a decrease in students needing discipline. Staff wellness has also been prioritized. At Oak Street, building community is the focus. Community Day had just taken place where kindergarten students met community helpers. Character Through Kindness is an initiative that includes NEST, cross-grade group meetings, and a week of respect. Social and emotional learning has been addressed through the Great Kindness Challenge, Spirit Days Wednesdays, Oak Street SEL Day. Time has also been devoted to staff wellness with Fitness Fridays to promote self-care. Having CBAC classrooms at Oak Street this year has also been a blessing as it's provided learning opportunities for students to come together and become aware of autism. This summer, more SEL activities will be developed. At Liberty Corner, the school year goal has been to focus on the 5 CASEL competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Recently, the Multicultural Arts Festival took place that brought everyone together. Floors and rooms were transformed to represent different countries. The hope is to make this event even bigger next year. Building a classroom community and curriculum integration has occurred with math talks, read-alouds, book clubs, and classroom meetings. One Book, One School was new this year as all teachers shared the book, The World According to Humphrey the Hamster, that explores kindness, respect, and being a good friend. This led to Liberty Corner getting a pet, Ginger the hamster, who's gone home with both students and teachers. The students were so receptive that friendship, according to Humphrey, has also been read aloud to the students. School beautification is reflected with the new murals in the cafeteria, and staff wellness is a priority, and the PTO has been supportive in providing staff with snacks. At Ridge, lastly, Dr. Lasvik provided us a synopsis of the year that included district building social and emotional development goals for the 22-23 year. The year began with freshman orientation during the summer in collaboration with peer leaders, followed by an opening wellness day of school that had sessions for each grade level to help orient them for the year. Ridge has had a week of respect activities to support bullying prevention, violence prevention, awareness week, Spirit Days, Tea Time, which stands for Thought and Empathy in Action Wellness Days, Unified Team Events, and last week's, which a little more than last week now, Successful Ridge Gives Back. ESS has been a great service and is keeping students in school. The MANAT program, which stands for Motivating Adolescent Performance, has offered student support for 9th through 12th graders. It's a safe space for kids who need it so that they can be successful in school. Some other initiatives that have been beneficial were Mental Health Awareness Week, classroom visits for progressive muscle relaxation, demonstrations, and performance anxiety for performing arts. The second annual in-person mental health fair was May 22nd through the 25th. It was organized by SAC for Mental Health Month, given success of the virtual fair and student feedback. The late in, early out that has been expanded to include juniors this year and not just seniors, and senior incentive where seniors can leave during lunch. Staff wellness has been a priority, as it's been at all other schools. Coming out of the pandemic, it became crucial to offer support to staff and build community goodwill. The new staff lounge presented by the PTO in the fall has been greatly appreciated and used. Putting teachers into homes, which are groups to build small connections with people in the building that they may not normally come into contact with, has been greatly received. The staff chorus has been successful as well, and gift-a-lift notes have become a welcome addition as staff members are able to send little notes of support and goodwill around all year. Everyone is looking forward to the annual end-of-year outdoor staff celebration. In conclusion, all the school programs vary based on school cultures, priorities, and the developmental needs of students. However, every school has prioritized social and emotional learning to benefit their students. And our next meeting is Wednesday, June 21st.
Any questions or comments for wellness? Okay, moving on. Facilities and operations. There's no items. Is there a report?
Yeah, I just got to find it now. Okay. All right, so this is a little bit outdated. This is the May 11th meeting. Some of these numbers are improved, we're happy to say. So number of work orders has decreased from 1169 to 1,005. The team is making progress. Even now, it's significantly less than that, than these numbers. These numbers are old. Aramark manager feedback. Dave, our Aramark manager, expressed dissatisfaction with 3 out of our 6 maintenance workers. Further discussion is required to address the concerns and find solutions to improve performance. And as Jim Rollo said, that's a nice way of saying it. Aramark goals. Aramark set a goal of closing 50% of all open work orders by June. This is a goal that they set, not us. So needless to say, they did fall short of that goal now, and they need to explain why. To address the issue, Nick and Jim set up a call with Aramark Management and Bill Richter of Advocate to review the additional potential strategies to resolve this. Conversation with maintenance workers. Jim Rollo plans to have a candid conversation with Jim Cooney, Tim McKnight from Aramark regarding the maintenance workers' performance. The goal is to provide constructive feedback and discuss ways to improve their efficiency. Again, that's a nice way of saying it. Open maintenance work orders, characterization. It's recommended to separate the open maintenance work orders into maintenance and preventative categories to better organize it. Non-working ACs, currently 31 out of 263 ACs are not working. That's 11%. That's actually excellent for a district of our size. The maintenance team was prioritizing the repairs to ensure a comfortable environment for everyone. The parquet wall in the media center is being replaced. Leaking section of the roof at Cedar Hill. One wing at Cedar Hill Schools, about 10,000 square feet in total, has been leaking, noticeably in one classroom. The CHS roof has been leaking for some time, and multiple efforts to patchwork it have not been successful. We contracted with a state roofing contractor to replace the affected section over the summer. The county office has been advised of the need to do this work on an emergency need basis, which expedites the normally lengthy procurement process. The budget to address replacing this roof section is about $500,000 to $600,000. Other updates, engineers are doing core sampling and designing plans to repave the Annan Oval. Since the varsity complex softball improvements have worked out, we may reconsider plans for the Cedar Hill field. We may not make that a complex, a softball complex. Boswell feasibility study. The feasibility study for Boswell is expected by the end of May. We did get it. The wetlands survey looks like we're going to be able to move forward with our project. ADA access is still planned to occur. As previously reported, the new walkway at Ridge High School, we intend to communicate directly with the community office about this project as well as to expedite the approval. That's it.
Any questions for facilities and ops?
Please no.
Okay, seeing none, are there any liaison committee reports? Ms. Shippick.
Just quickly before everyone falls asleep. So Municipal Alliance Youth Services Commission meeting. The meeting was on June 6, 2023. We had an online meeting last week. The Community Program Coordinator, Caitlin Cartuccio, informed us about the Pride survey and how the official summary is going to be shared with the Board of Education very soon, most likely through email. If in-person presentation is needed, it can be organized later in time. She's coordinating with Ms. Fox on this subject. The Municipal Alliance hosted the annual Twilight Challenge 5K fundraiser. Ms. Cartuccio gave a debrief on it. This year, the fundraiser had the most participants since the program was first organized, altogether 256. The event raised $4,000+ in race fees and $200 in donations. The organizers will look into a different timer option next year because some chips did not work properly. Some other changes like pre-registered runners will be divided into 3 groups next year if participation is going to be similarly high. Everyone liked the new band. Some adjustments on the trail map is needed for next year. More than 1,600 pictures have been taken. The organizers are looking to have Jeff Lee to volunteer and come back and take the photos next year as well. This year, everyone who wanted got a t-shirt or a bag, great sandwiches, iced coffee from local stores. The new neon yellow shirts for the organizers worked out very well. They will keep it for the next year. All in all, huge success. Update on the youth service program. There is a consideration to invite GEM, Girls Empowering Mindfulness Yoga, instead of Viking Yoga next year. The community program coordinator, Caitlin Cartuccio, leaves the program for a short period of time for maternity leave. We congratulate her and we all wish the best to her and her baby. Abigail Phillips will be taking over REACH Education Action and Community Health. Jennifer Assay from Bernards Township Committee joined the Municipal Alliance Commission. We all welcomed her. The next meeting is going to be September 5th.
Thank you. Any questions for Municipal Alliance Liaison?
It's not a question. I just wanted to, I'm not sure if everybody knows what the Pride Survey is.
Yes. Sorry. So what I have been told, I mean, she did not share any details because she said that there are some rules that all the board members has to receive the data and the detailed information. What I have learned, it is about drug use and abuse. That survey is going to be.
Yeah, so we'll have it to you guys on the board agenda for June 22nd, similar to the way we gave you the trends in mental health. So it'll be a link, and you guys can look through the details.
Anybody else? Thank you. Any other liaison committee reports? Mr. Mead.
Yeah, I'll just go real quickly. Monday, June 5th, we had a superintendent's parent advisory council meeting. We did introduction of the new PTO presidents and a transition from the former one, so congratulations to the new PTO officers. We talked about the state testing situation that Tim mentioned before, the NJSLA, so I won't go into this same details, but it was the exact same thing. And then we had a follow-up to the BT Connect meeting regarding the bus tiering and different options. The only thing we concluded is we are not going to make everybody happy no matter what we do, and we're going to make a lot of people upset, but we're going to have to try to find the best solution. The next meeting will be in September.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none. No other liaison committee reports? All right, that's going to bring us up to public comment on non-agenda items. So if you have a comment, come on down, keep it 3 minutes or less, sign in, state your name, speak your piece.
Annika Forzani, Dawn Drive. I got to say, I am exhausted by this textbook conversation. And going back to a couple of the comments that were made before, the whole ice cream flavor analogy, I've spoken about the textbooks a couple times. I just want to be clear. I wholeheartedly, 100% believe that students should learn different perspectives. Students, whether they're conservative or progressive or moderate or don't know where they stand, should be comfortable expressing their perspectives, 100%. My objection to the board's rejection of the textbooks that have now been going on for so long had to do with your assumption that our teachers don't know how to do their job, that they can't take your feedback and lead discussions with different perspectives, that somehow you know better than them. We're still talking new textbooks, that somehow you know better than them and to find a textbook, even though they've had years of experience. They have, master's degrees. Ms. McKeon mentioned, other feedback about that first textbook. And I spoke to my sons as well, 2 of whom are now in college, one's in high school, talk to them about their classes and, are their teachers really biased in this and that? No, they're very capable. They're capable of discussing different perspectives. I even talked to the parent of a student I know who's extremely conservative. And I happen to know they have a teacher who definitely leans progressive. And I said, what's up there? Like, is that kid, uncomfortable in the class? Is he feeling like he's silenced? And actually, I got the opposite. He is being, more involved in that class than any other class. He's getting an A for the first time in history class, and he's giving very conservative perspectives. So, and again, this is even with a teacher that I believe has a bit of a reputation of being a little more progressive. So they're not being penalized. They're being, allowed to speak. And this is what our teachers need to, know how to do. So again, if we go back to this Schaefer book, the first textbook, I mean, this has been months now we've been talking about it. Again, I said it before, the objections that came up a few times, an outdated study, which the teacher, Mr. Terry responded was a foundational study. Some issue, he didn't like how women's progress was discussed. Again, it's a textbook. These teachers know what they're doing, and it's just very frustrating to me that we're now, 4-6 months later, and we're back to discussing that first textbook that should have been approved right then. So let's please give some, credit to our teachers and value their expertise. And also, think about all the extra work that has gone in these last 4 to 6 months, the extra work that you're giving to the teachers and administrators, and we still have nothing. Some of you expressed business acumen. But I will say that if I cause my employees to go through this kind of...
Ma'am, your time's up.
Okay. Well, if I cause my employees to go through this kind of rework and run around, I mean, my company would be bankrupt. So I really think you need to learn to be a little more efficient and considered in what you're asking our teachers to do and redo and redo and redo with the health curriculum as well. I'm seeing this. I just don't think this is just not an efficient way to run the schools. Thank you.
Aaron Weber, Hilltop Road. I attended the last BT Connect meeting. I just want to take some time to discuss the proposed plan for the bus routes. At that meeting, it would have been helpful to everyone that attended if we could have seen where we currently stand with the bus routes. For example, how many buses do we currently use now? How many buses make 1 stop or 2 stops? Present a map showing the current bus routes and where the bus stops are. What time does each bus route start and what time does it end? All of this is information that Mr. Markarian already has. I've said many times in the past, I don't expect him to be an expert on all of the details of running the school district, but I'd appreciate it if he could provide this information to the public so that we can possibly help. A big part of my career has been in logistics and project planning. If we had answers to these questions, we might be able to make small changes to minimize any impact to the start times of the schools. We might also find ways to reduce the buses that will not only save costs, but reduce traffic by having fewer buses on the road in the morning commute. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Victoria Costa, 15 Hilltop Road. Just a few things. Number one, I'd like to thank you for recognizing Mrs. Gambino. She was my daughter's teacher, and my daughter was struggling at math. So I have to say accolades to her. She's a wonderful teacher, and it's long overdue. She's been a teacher for many years. Number two, I'm very thankful about the softball field for many reasons. I'm not sure if the person who came up here said that it was useless has any girls, but it's important to girls and girls' sports. If you look at the diversity survey, it shows that the girls feel second fiddle. That's number one. We talk about stress, anxiety, sports, creativity are outlets for those things. So, you know, you saw tonight what a difference a teacher made, a dance teacher made in the lives of kids. Softball does the same things. So I'm thankful that this board took the time and did that. A couple other things, the sociology book. So my daughter is a recent Ridge graduate, 2022. She actually took the sociology class. So I'm speaking from me interrogating her at the dinner table for the half a semester that she took it. So a few things I want to speak about the sociology book. Number one, it was never used. And number two, a lot of things that they talked about, she couldn't even look up. Like, for instance, she was on the side of the conversation of gun control, and hers was to be against gun control. She couldn't look up things like the NRA. So her stress wasn't about the textbook. Her stress was things that she should have been able to do in class. She wasn't able to do. And if you guys haven't talked to your kids, I think I've said this like 2 years ago, go to Gemba. Go to some of the kids that graduated that feel the freedom to say what's wrong. The biggest thing my daughter has brought home her freshman year to college is that Basking Ridge does not prepare you for the real world. And I've heard this dozens and dozens and dozens of times for these students. And so when you go to Gemba, I'm going to tell you this. That sociology class is an honors and CP class together. They are in that class together. The only differentiator is one end of the semester project. Why take it for CP? My daughter said any kid that takes it for CP shouldn't. They should just take the honors and do the one extra small project and get it. It's known as a GPA fluff class because seniors take it when they're already going through the whole college thing, and so do the juniors. So we're actually kidding ourselves when we're here exhausting ourselves over and over and over. And it's not the board who's doing it, it's the parents. And a lot of parents who are up here speaking, their kids weren't even in the class, didn't take the class, aren't even old enough, but yet they're subject matter experts. I'd be happy to grill my daughter on that. One last thing.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Okay, thank you. I'll save the next for next time.
Cody Smith, 36 Royal Oak Drive. I believe I have two very boring things. So following up on the agenda, again, I think I've said this before in an email, but what is online for the agenda is not what is sitting here that you hand out. So the question that came up earlier about the teacher reductions, they're in what's handed out here. So why can't we post this before the meeting? Why do we have to come here the day of the meeting, the 5 minutes before the meeting, and pick this up and then try to get through it during the meeting? I don't understand why this can't be online on Friday so that everybody can look at it. And then the second thing about the policy committee reports, again, we have here, we don't have what policies are going to be adopted tonight in the version of the agenda that's online, but in the agenda of the version that's handed out here, we have policy 2510, adoption of test books revised, and policy R055, the board committees that Ms. McHugh mentioned. So why can't we have the draft policies that you're going to adopt, stamp a draft, but why can't that be distributed so that we can actually see the policy before we come to the meeting, not after the policy has been approved, and if we have any comments on it, we can make those as part of the meeting. I just don't understand why at least this can't be on the agenda or on the online before we get here. My second point is a question. I don't understand the bond refinancing. I went back and looked at the financial statements while I'm sitting here, and I've heard you talk about it before. but the 2012 and the 2013 tranches, which I think you mentioned, it looks like the coupon rates on those are 3 or 4%. And even though they're municipal bonds and they may have tax features, I don't understand how we can get a 3% reduction. Those bonds are maturing and being paid off for the most part in the next 5 to 6 years. So just simply, how is it even feasible in this interest rate environment where rates have gone up to refinance those bonds? I don't get it on the surface. Thank you.
Hi, Stacy Molinari, Franklin Drive. Congrats to the Teachers of the Year and retirees celebrated tonight. 2 quick topics. First, health curriculum. The last curriculum committee readout at the last meeting actually revealed that what Ms. Fox has told us about how some of the standards in the lower grades taught about private parts was different than what Mr. Salmon read out. So I do think this is an awesome example of why doing a better job on clarity on this content is essential. Second, I want to address what I thought was an extremely upsetting display at the Board of Education meeting in early May. All the red shirts displaying a false narrative on people's back, which was a narrative about book banning that just doesn't exist. This was organized by radical groups on social media and solicitation being done right here at our schools. They say they came here to support the teachers, but where was everyone when you were asked to support our kids and get them back into school? I distinctly remember coming up here worried about the risk benefit of locking kids out of school and behind a screen, that the risk of outcomes from COVID on a healthy child being less of a risk than the possible long-term damage that could be done. We now sit here concerned about HIB investigations and mental health issues. Where was everyone when our students were forced to be locked in their rooms for 2 years behind a screen? I'm not going to spend time talking about what could or should have been. I don't think that's productive, but to organize over a vote on a book and not at the time our kids were kept out of school, I find extremely troubling and beyond upsetting. So I'd like to set the record straight. This is not book banning. This is just the process for curriculum approval. BOE members get a vote, yes, no, or abstain. The majority voted no. It just so happens you now have members up here who are not rubber stamping, and for that, I thank you very much. The challenge we're facing has nothing to do with diverse opinions on the Board of Education. Actually, diverse and differing opinions should only make us stronger as a community. The problem we have are these false narratives that are just not there. So to the community members who insist on spreading this false information up here at the mic, as well as in your editorials, stop. This board did not introduce culture wars and politics into the school. This was done by the former board. To any board member, if you're not willing to put in the time and effort required to review what you've been asked to vote on, you should at least be abstaining your vote. Do not turn this into a pretend trust issue. So to the new board members, thank you so much for your courage and being willing to do the hard work that goes into approvals when asked, which would go for curriculum, books, budget, personnel. And most of all, thank you for keeping our kids at the center of your decision making.
Sherry Nelson, 195 Smoke Rise Road. Ava said it, I didn't get to it earlier, I was waiting for this, to thank everybody for Balloons in June today. We had 80 volunteers helping us get this done. We delivered 4,600 balloons to graduates today, and it was just wonderful. I'm always in awe of how we somehow pull this off. And specifically, Ms. Light and Ms. Chipak, you guys rock, you were there. Hours and hours, thank you. I wanted to say that my kids have attended schools here since preschool, and they're both in high school now, and we only have one more year here. So I've been here for 16 years. I was the PEC co-president for 4 years, and I was a school representative for PEC for 8 years. I have advocated for special education students as well as other important initiatives at Board of Ed meetings for all 16 of those years. We didn't always agree, but we were always respectful. I'm really saddened to see how some members of the public are no longer showing any respect at these meetings or respect for our volunteer Board of Ed members. The misinformation and outright lies currently being spread by some people are completely out of control, and I would urge my neighbors to please reconsider this approach. I also have to question the true motives of some of the community members who have been claiming to support our teachers while creating disruption at our recent meetings. It's very telling to compare the turnout at the meetings with all the false allegations of book banning compared to tonight, when we were actually honoring our excellent teachers. Where were you? Where were you? Where are all those red shirts tonight? We finally have Board of Ed members who are providing the appropriate level of oversight that we should have had all along. We finally have Board of Ed members who are managing our money correctly. We finally have Board of Ed members who do not just rubber stamp everything that is put in front of you. I appreciate that all of you are asking questions and doing your due diligence, and I thank you for that. And as someone who has consistently been engaged, I have never been bored by these meetings. They're very important. They're not boring. I thank you, and you are finally doing the job as it was intended.
Stella Perna, Tuxford Terrace. Congratulations to the teachers that retired. I have a couple of points. I appreciate that all materials are being reviewed. I've had some issues in the past, and I know that there are guidelines provided by the curriculum supervisors. I've had my twin girls come home and hand me materials that were inappropriate for them in 6th grade. They even said, "Mom, I don't think we should be reading this." And I showed it to my husband, and he said, "Why are they being given this type of material?" And it was inappropriate for their age. I had some email exchanges with the curriculum supervisor, and she said that the teacher had asked them to redact those words or black out the words because those were not appropriate for them. Okay, that's a problem. So, I got to the bottom of it, and basically teachers are allowed to provide supplemental materials, but those aren't reviewed, and neither are videos. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten permission slips for R-rated movies for my kids who were under 17. So this, to me, is important. So yes, please do look at all materials. That is your job. And I appreciate you asking the questions. And for those of you that disagree, too bad. I've had so many instances where this has happened, and it's upsetting. I don't like it. I don't like it in my home, and I certainly don't want it in the school. As for boring meetings, no thank you. I don't want rubber stamping. I want everything looked at. That is the job of a Board of Education member. So I'm very happy we have new members that are willing to do that work. And for those who have been on here, I ask you, please, look at it with a fresh set of eyes. It's important. I went to the BT Connect. That was fantastic. Great job. Those students were amazing. But I walked out of there, I was very upset. It was very upsetting. I actually knew some of the students. These students need mentors. They need to talk to people outside of the community, outside of the school community. They need to hear what the world is like outside, because these kids are amazing kids. But there were a couple kids, boy, I felt bad for them. They sounded lost. And these are some of our high performers, so it troubles me. And lastly, I have a suggestion. The add, drop, rotate. My son was only had to do it for the 1 year. I don't think it really added any value to him, but we talk about the delayed start. Why can't we do delayed start and then add, drop, rotate 2 classes? Just a suggestion, because I kind of feel like we do need a delayed start for the older students. I think there's a solution in there. I think we can come up with something. It's just a suggestion. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm John Pettit from 65 Cross Road. Thanks for everybody staying so late, and it's much appreciated, all the time you guys are putting in, volunteering your time. But just quickly, if I'm understanding the financial aspect of this properly from what I'm gleaning, I guess the board's saving something around $1.6 million a year due to putting the reserve money into an interest-bearing account. It doesn't sound like rocket science here, but if I'm interpreting that correctly, I might be off with the math, but this is what I've been gleaning from reviewing this. So I guess that means like every year we save $1.6 million. So if I'm understanding this properly, over the past 10 years, we wasted $16 million. And it's just because the board couldn't think of putting like $30 or $40 million into an account that bears interest. Maybe I don't have that right, but where do the taxpayers go to get their money back for the incompetence of the board of the past? Thank you.
Heidelstein, Riverside Drive. In your curriculum report, you mentioned a survey that the community could do. Where can we find a survey, since I'm part of the community and I've never even heard that there's going to be a survey? Just so people know, back in May 24th, the library board meeting, the director there mentioned that the textbook, the sociology textbook, a copy of it was donated to the library, and they're going through it right now for approval, and then it'll be put on a shelf. So anybody's interested, they can go to the library and look at the book. I'm sure by now it's on the shelves. It's the job of the Board of Education to review the book and approve or disapprove. And if people are unhappy about it, that's their problem, because the Board of Education will be buying a book, and if there's blowback on it, it's on the Board of Education, so it's their due diligence to check it. So nobody should be criticizing them for doing their job. And one last thing, and I went about this last year, and I didn't make any phone calls this year. There's only a week left in school. Well, those bushes on the sidewalk from Finley Avenue up to the school are 2 feet into the crosswalk, or into the sidewalk. Anybody who walks through that sidewalk is getting rubbed off, their skin rubbed off. Come tomorrow morning, when they go to school and they go through those bushes, they're going to get soaking wet, because those bushes are soaking wet now, and they're going to retain that water tomorrow morning. There's no reason why those bushes can't be trimmed. I know it's not the Board of Education, it's whoever, the principal, whoever looks at this stuff, they see it every day when they drive up that driveway. It should have been done. It should have been done back in March. Now we're talking June. Thank you very much.
Anybody else for public comment? Anybody online? Oh, one more coming up.
Hello again, Ness Montag. Just to wrap up a couple things that were just brought up. There's a big difference between rubber stamping something and recognizing your limitations in fields other than your own expertise. And part of board members' duty is to recognize their limitations and understand that most of you are not professional educators and don't have any background in education. And part of your duty is to properly defer to properly qualified professional opinions. It's been over 6 months, and I know someone just mentioned this. This board has had more than 6 months to review this book, to express any questions or concerns. Now you'll have a whole nother week to come up with some new ones. But this is not a rubber stamping thing. There are procedures in place that have been followed in this district for years and years and years. And never has a book been rejected over and over like this on no sound basis. But one thing that someone did mention about this big concern about respecting the community and the community should respect the board, I have to say, I had a friend's teenage daughter who attended the May 8th board meeting with her. She had all sorts of questions about why some of the adults on the stage looked like they were on their laptops, texting, having side conversations, not paying any attention at all while our wellness chair was reporting out about her classmates' skyrocketing suicide interventions, violence prevention reports, and child abuse referrals. This student was so upset and couldn't believe this is how adults acted while information was being shared about how students were suffering. But this is nothing new. We've seen this kind of disdainful behavior from some of our board members who seem very intent on listening to each other, but not so much to anyone else. We know it's a long day, you're tired, you're up there kind of getting glazed over, but at that same meeting during public comment, when one board member was specifically on his phone and called out for being on his phone while people were trying to share their concerns publicly, we saw that he had the audacity to hold his phone up even higher like that, continuing to text, and it was just the height of rudeness. And he didn't actually make an obscene gesture, but he might as well have, because with his actions, it sent that message loud and clear. We know that new board members have only been in place since January and you're learning the ropes, but that's okay. It's not okay for you to be so disgracefully disrespecting pretty much everyone, from our teachers to our administrators to our students to our community. I don't know, just, it's enough already. Everyone's exhausted from this. It is not necessary. We're an outstanding school district and we want to keep it that way, please. Just be adults, treat yourselves, treat everyone with the respect they deserve. Thanks.
John Coelho, Benedict Crescent. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but it's very late and I know we all want to go home, but I've heard time and time again about disrespect to the board or disrespect to the community. And I want to just take a step back. We've had a board that raised our taxes 2% a year, and we've had an administration that has asked for everything and been given everything by the board. We've had the union summoned here by the administration and invited here, and I provided that evidence to Mr. Markarian. Red t-shirts, where are they today? Haven't seen them. We've wasted a lot of time on this. We've seen the chairman of the curriculum committee reading out details about a book, and then a member of the public who's sitting right here reading names. How did she get those names? And I've asked Mr. Markarian and the administration twice. How did the person who just spoke earlier get the names of who said what in a curriculum committee? This tells me that there are members of the legacy board who are working with members of the public. And I'm going to be very clear to you. I think it's good to have a debate. It's good to have different points of view. It is not good to make personal attacks the way members of the public just before me are. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Maybe online. All right, public comment is closed. Board forum.
Second.
No, we have some things we need to discuss because we can't just adjourn without. We have issues of revolving the committees that I had said I wanted to bring up, and you said we would wait till board forum, and I know it's late, but this is something that we keep putting off meeting after meeting.
Go ahead.
And so when you meant to having the committees that only had 3 members, it was with the idea that it was an opportunity for people to rotate in. And my sense is that that is actually not really happening. I've had the same people almost every single meeting for wellness. When Ruchika could not come, I followed the path of alternate, and I was able to have you come, Keith, which I really appreciated. But I think we need to look at this because a couple things are happening. One, people are not coming to these meetings, and two, when there's no rhyme or reason. So, for instance, when I reached out about facilities, one of the responses I got was, let me check to see who has emailed me first. And I was like, is that how it works? It's who emails first gets in, even if that person has already been to 3 other meetings and somebody else hasn't been. So I think the time has come that we need to have some system put in place of how this is all happening, who's going to meetings, how that process works, when, sometimes we don't even know when the meetings are to even ask about. I mean, I know the finance meeting has, if you look, hasn't been the regularly scheduled day and time. It was listed when we approved it in January. So I just think that we need to have a conversation about this because, yes, it's the summer, but when we come back in September, everybody needs to be able to set their calendar. So if you're on a committee and you know the committee meets the first Thursday or the second Monday, whatever it is, you're on a committee, you know the dates, you can make your plans. So I think we need to have that ironed out, and I think we need to have some, and I hate to use the word policy, but it's what we need. We need to figure out how this extra person is working when there are only 3 members to a committee.
Anybody else for board forum? Mr. Salmon.
So I guess that person was just accusing me of doing something. I'm not totally sure what it was. I hate to jump away from the committee meeting thing, but I guess this person, he said something about the chair of the curriculum committee. So the way the committee process works, at least from my perspective as the chair of the curriculum committee, is that I take notes during the meetings. I write down what people said so that the board members can understand what happens. It goes to the other curriculum committee members to add or modify whatever they want, to reflect the discussion of the curriculum committee, and then it goes out to the rest of the board, and that's it. So I don't even know something about names. I'm not even sure what the insinuation or allegation was, but if you would like to be more specific, that's fine, if you want to. What I wanted to say was that I did go to the brew, and I just wanted to say that the kids that were on the panel, the panel was great. I'm glad it was organized by Jen and Russ and Dr. Lazovic, and that Ms. Clark was there, and Officer Jusina was there, and Mr. Yastrzemski was there. The bravery of those kids to really talk about the environment at Ridge was unbelievable. To do it in front of adults like that they see every day, that are their teachers, that are their administrators, I thought was amazing. It was just a tremendous display of bravery and courage by those kids. The thing that I took away was, and I think somebody mentioned this, there's only so much school can do to relieve the stress that these kids are feeling. And really, the school can't ever do enough. I mean, if the kids are leaving school and they're stressed out for whatever pressures they're facing, academic or extracurricular related or social, whatever it is, we can only do programs that attempt to mitigate the stress. It's never going to remove the stress because, like the person who made the comment said, if that stress is originating from outside the school, or if it's what the kids are putting on themselves because it's academic, like I have to get into this school, I have to get into that school. I think it's really just about, the expectation and that, you're going to be okay. If you don't get into Harvard, it's okay. You can still have a fruitful life. That's not the end all be all, because I think it's always just a matter of, well, what next? Okay, you get into Harvard and then what? Then life is, just peaches and cream. Like, it doesn't really work out that way. Or you graduate from Harvard and then what? Like, you just walk into a job and then everything's peaches and cream. It doesn't work out that way. So like, you know, it's really, I think, helping kids to understand that, you know, that pressure, that academic pressure is more about your success. And there's good pressure and good stress, but it's more about your success as an individual, period, not relative to other kids or other students or other things. It's your personal success and the environment that you can find that will foster that. So I hope that, and I think we are doing that. I mean, I think, you know, having counselors recommend classes to students rather than just kind of like picking it, I think is a good step there. Other parts of the character education wellness program, the BREW program by itself, I think are, you know, good steps forward to get kids to understand that, you know, it's the environment that suits you that you will be successful in. So I just want to say thank you again to putting it on and to the kids that were there. And I want to include Petra and Kyle in that as well, because they've been up here and been speaking in front of adults and administrators and staff, and they've given their unvarnished opinion. So I want to say thank you to them as well, because I would put them in the same group with those kids. So it's just extremely impressive, and I wanted to say thank you.
I do apologize, it's getting late, but I did skip over Mr. Markarian. I should have went to him before board forum. So I know you have some notes to address some things the public had coming up, so I want to come back to you.
Okay, so from the first public comment, I think a couple of those questions got answered with respect to the reduction in force and the conversation about getting out policy, personnel, finance, those types of minutes, getting those posted online. And by virtue of tonight, we had a second reading of that policy as Ms. McKeon described, so we'll start doing that. Our goal is by the Friday before the Board of Ed meetings. I understand the repeated question about the agenda and the policy. We may be able to start doing some links under the first reading and second reading and link those policies, so that would help on the agenda. And you know, getting the full agenda out logistically, it gives us a little bit of a buffer to try to get the most accurate thing out there, but I understand the request, and I'll think about that. I appreciate it. So I think that was, there was also a question about the sociology book came up again in a few different places. You know, what we're doing for now, I think we have some pretty clear direction after all that board discussion. That was great. You know, worst case scenario, for now, we have the book that we have. For $700, we can get some rebinding done. If we continue to use that into next year or not, we'll see going forward. You said something? Oh, the bonds. That was second public comment, so I think that was second public comment. We'll get to that in a second. There was a comment about suicide intervention reports. What does that mean? High numbers. I wasn't quite sure where the exact nature of that question, but if you do look at the Trends in Mental Health report, what you see refers to suicide intervention reports, which is basically when you have a situation in the school that requires a documentation by board policy. So anytime you have a situation where something's come up with a student and you need to have a conversation with the student, and perhaps there's screening involved, or a phone call to a family home involved, because something came up where a implication to possibly do harm to oneself needs to be followed up on. So in those situations, by board policy, we do document those, and we call those our suicide intervention reports, and that's what those numbers reflect in the Trends in Mental Health report in that particular section. I think that was the question. Some of the things that we've talked about with regard to how to respond to some of the issues, such as students and their time and the overscheduling, things that came up in the BREW, the stressors on students, what can you do about those kinds of things? One of the things we've talked about is trying to increase opportunities for parents to understand some of these issues, and how perhaps with more communication, partnering between home and school, we can try to get more light on some of the issues that are causing stress among the students. We have the concept of parent academy classes, trying to grow that out more and try to highlight some areas where we really want to get parents involved and listening to what we're seeing on our side of the situation, which is coming out in some ways, whether it's a report in trends in mental health or perhaps with a panel conversation like we had with the Brew, you start to get an idea of some of the things we see in schools, communicating that back to parents, trying to create those opportunities through some parent academy classes is what we talked about as one opportunity, and even recording some of those kinds of opportunities and making them accessible to people that can't come in person. Okay, second public comment. I'm sure Mr. Rollo made a note about the shrubbery to ask our facilities guys to get that cleaned up out on the section of sidewalk there near the traffic light on Finley. I think that was the space, so thank you for that. The question about the survey for the community with regard to the health curriculum, I believe. I did see an article in the Burnsville News kind of alerting the public if they're interested in, community members interested in filling that out. I think the article said to go to our website, and I just double checked to make sure it was there. It's kind of front and center on the district webpage for the community survey on the health curriculum. Families were also sent that. If they have a student in the district, they would have gotten that through Genesis as well. The bond refinancing, trying to achieve that 3% savings is difficult right now. I think that's why we didn't get it done earlier in the school year. We're just trying to have the opportunity to be able to do it if the market conditions permit, I think is a fair way of saying it, and the resolutions that the board has approved up to date kind of position the board to be shovel ready, as they say in construction speak. This would be, I don't know what you would call it in finance ready terms, but I think that's the concept. Whether or not it happens, hopefully it does, we'll see. We have our financial advisors. We've got some expertise on the board helping us even on this, and Jim's working on it. So if we get the opportunity, we'll go for it. And if we don't, well, at least we're ready, and we keep watching the market conditions. The balloons for the graduates, thanks to everybody that worked on that. That's awesome. It's always great to see that around town. When you drive through town, you see the balloons. It's a great feeling. And I know everyone's gassed, and they want me to be quiet, but, you know, there's a lot of questions here. Sorry. It'll be great. Hopefully we get, fingers crossed, everybody, you know, pray for rain, but not rain on graduation afternoon for this coming Friday. So hopefully we get great weather for Friday. We'll keep an eye on that. Sorry. There was a question about $1.6 million and did we waste $16 million or something like that. I wouldn't say that's the case at all. Those resolutions are set up at the end of school year. There's an opportunity strictly during the month of June to pass a resolution which basically gives the board the opportunity to designate some remaining balances in the budget to go into reserve accounts. Those resolutions give the board the option to do that. You have to do those resolutions in June in order to have that opportunity at some point in the audit process. Typically, once you're getting your audit information, you're taking a look at your balances and deciding if any, those would be the limits that you could put deposits into reserve accounts.
Nick, excuse me.
Yeah.
I think he was referring to the interest rates in our bank account balances and the bearing accounts.
Okay.
I'm happy to clarify if you
Okay.
like.
Sorry if I misunderstood that.
So do you want me to just quickly
Sure,
clarify?
if you think if I got that one wrong and you can clarify, go for it.
So based on market conditions and the interest rates and how they've changed, we had the opportunity to negotiate more favorable interest rates on the funds that we actually have in our operating account as well as some of our other accounts. So as an update, you know, from the last finance, which will go out and you'll hear more about that next time around, we were able to negotiate higher rates at different banks that is going to enable us to get about $1.3 to $1.5 million should the interest rates remain the way they are. So that's going to be something that's going to be in continuous flux, and we're going to
Sure.
have to actually look at that. But it also enabled us to reduce the fees on the accounts that we pay, so it saves us that as well. So it's going to be a net positive for the district in the current year, but at the very least, I think it will save us, I think we figured about $100,000 in fees from Wells Fargo. So we're going to be actively watching that and monitoring it and making sure that we're managing money to get the best rates possible.
Yes, I know we've been working on that steadily in finance. I know Jim's working on it with the banks and all the different proposals that he's getting. And it takes time to move all those accounts. We have a lot of bank accounts tied up with a lot of our operational procedures with regard to payroll, direct deposit, and everything else. So I know Jim's got that as a priority, and he's working on it. Thank you to the board for their support in tonight's personnel action, for the appointment of Dana Romano, for WAM's assistant principal, and Sarah Thompson for Cedar Hill. I think they saw the writing on the wall with the curriculum committee report and took the opportunity to toodaloo. Let's see. Thanks for the comments about Miss Gambino and recognizing her as Teacher of the Year. And I think that was about it on my notes.
Okay. Anybody else for motion to adjourn? Oh.
Sorry,
Ms.
I know
McKeon.
it's late, but I just wanted to respond to the comment that also confused Tim before from public comment. I find it really upsetting that that there's any kind of it seems like almost like a conspiracy theory out there that there's some kind of collusion going on between several of us, the administrators, the teachers union, PTO presidents. I don't know what this is all about. I don't really consider myself an activist, but if you want to call me that, that's fine. But I am really, disturbed that people who are coming here to speak about issues that are important to them, which people have always done in our community, are being accused of being some kind of activists. I don't really understand that, and it's very upsetting to me. So, I don't really know what to say about it. I think we've had people that have been upset or come out to speak on issues for all the years I've been on the board, for decades, and sometimes there's more people that are upset than other times. And obviously during COVID, we had people upset on both sides of the issue, speaking out, and we listened to them respectfully, and that was okay. We understood why they were upset. We couldn't necessarily do what they all wanted or make everyone happy, and obviously we were all really concerned about the children, and we were dealing with state guidelines and laws and stuff. And people don't have to agree with what those should be or how, people are entitled to their own opinion. But it's really upsetting to me that I really still feel like people are trying to silence members of our community from speaking about issues that they care about. And it really upsets me, so I just had to say that.
Anybody motion to adjourn?
Second.
First, second, all in favor? Yes.
Let's go.
Adjourned.